Chapter 94. I can't get it. They didn't even mention the recipe. Uncle, think about it. No one would hand over such a good thing. Zhou Shihu said helplessly. Seeing that his uncle was about to speak, he said, Uncle, I know what you want to say. Isn't it just to see what they usually buy? I've already arranged for people to watch them. However, they bought almost everything. They even sent people to the market to pick up things. At night, after the people in the market had left, they would send people to pick up things. If they could eat something, they would pick it up. Rotten fish and smelly shrimps. At first, I thought they were good things. Later, I found out that they were drying these things and grinding them into powder to feed the chickens. They also bought some rice and flour. In the past, it was soybeans. Later, they said that soybeans were poisonous, so they stopped. They also stopped selling vegetable oil. Only then did I know that the vegetable oil was soybean oil. I also wanted to know how they got the oil. I even stir-fried the soybeans a few times. It was quite fragrant. Unfortunately, there was no oil. Later, I asked people to soak it in water to get the oil out. In the end, it sprouted 2 inches long. It was quite good when stir-fried with meat. I even complained to Song Jinggong, who had been helping to contact them. I didn't expect that Song Jinggong would really go back and tell him. The next day, he gave me a recipe. It was a recipe for sliced chicken in scallion oil with bean sprouts. Oh, is it delicious? Uncle hasn't eaten it yet. Zhou Qiong asked with a smile. It's delicious. On the 3rd day, they told me that the bean sprouts can be eaten without the tail. As long as it's cooked in boiling oil and stir-fried with shredded meat, it will be tender and crispy. I made it too. It was indeed so. Zhou Shihu said with a depressed face. Ha ha ha. Zhou Qiong finally couldn't help but laugh. At the same time, he was even more curious about Zhang Zhuangzi. His nephew was fooling around, and the other side was actually able to give him a recipe immediately. This was not simple. If that's the case, why don't you sell this with them? You can give them more money. I did, but they didn't agree. They told me not to worry and that there will be new things to sell soon. Not only in this province, but also in other provinces. They will sell to those small shops that specialize in selling salt and soy sauce. What they sell is soy sauce. I'm looking for people to go to other provinces to look for merchants. They're not selling them at a high price. The price they gave me was 5 copper coins for 2 caddies. If I were to sell them for 10 copper coins for 3 caddies, I don't need to share the money with them. Now that there's a drought in many places, the price of beans is expensive. By selling them like this, they're really helping the people. Zhou Shihu counted with his fingers as he spoke to his uncle. But you didn't earn much, did you? Not much. That depends on the amount. They said that they can give me 5,000 don of soy sauce in the beginning and 50,000 don of soy sauce in the future. I need to get salt for them. They can't buy that much salt. Isn't that a lot? I don't know how long it will take to sell all the soy sauce. It's best if the people under you know how to do things and sell the soy sauce to further places. Zhou Shihu was now wondering how Zhang Zhuangzi could get so many soybeans to make soy sauce and dared to lower the price so much. Hearing these words, Zhou Qiong did not look as relaxed as before. The Zhang family's manner did this to help suppress the price of some things in the province, so that those who wanted to speculate would not dare to make a move. This was a big deal. 55,000 sure worth of soy sauce. Just hearing it was enough to scare people. He knew that some of the information he got from his nephew might not be true. He shouted outside, County Magistrate Chung, please come over. I have something to ask. County Magistrate Chung was thinking about how to make the people above stay in the county and only let Zhou Xiu go to Zhang Zhuangzi to take a look. When he heard Zhou Xiu calling for him, he didn't dare to delay. He got down from his seat and entered Zhou Xiu's car. He asked respectfully, Sir, what do you want to ask this humble official? Do you know that Zhang Zhuangzi wants to sell soy sauce? Zhou Xiu asked directly. Yes, they want to lower the price of food. Not only soy sauce, but also a lot of eggs in 2 days. They can buy 1 gene of eggs at a time, and the price is very cheap. Chickens need to be eaten. Once the price of eggs is lowered, the price of food can increase. I have already ordered people to block the roads leading to the outside of this county. If they find anything transporting food, they will stop it. County Magistrate Chung was a little excited when he talked about this matter. Zhang family and Wang family of Zhuangzi were almost losing money to help him suppress the price of food. If Sanshui County was stricter, they didn't have to worry about the people not being able to eat. They made a lot of money and didn't hesitate to spend money. Zhou Xiu was in charge of taxation. Of course, he knew that County Magistrate Cheng would win a lot of praise if the price was stabilized. Why did Zhangzhe Zhuangzi do this? Are you in contact with them? Yes, they have been helping me in all aspects. As long as I am in a little trouble, Zhangzhe Zhuangzi will use his means. I have always regarded the person who takes care of me as my master. I have discussed with Song Jinggong several times that I want to be apprenticed to him, but he didn't agree. I think they are testing me. At this time, County Magistrate Cheng did not try to hide anything. He said everything that could be said. He knew that Zhou Qiong and he were together, so there was no need to hide anything from this kind of thing that was not a secret. Anyone with a discerning eye would understand at a glance. Zhou Xiu pondered for a while and asked again, "Can you ask for their recipe?" "I don't know. I don't dare to ask for it. That will stop people from making money. I still want to be apprenticed to a master." County Magistrate Cheng told the truth. "Well, I see. We are almost there, right?" Zhou Xiu didn't want to force County Magistrate Cheng. County Magistrate Cheng was still taking care of his family. "Almost there. I will go back first. I will come back later." County Magistrate Cheng knew that Zhou Xiu wanted him to leave. He nodded and stopped the carriage. He bowed and left. After a while, they finally arrived at the place. As soon as they got off the carriage, they saw that there were many people there. Everyone had something to fetch water beside them. Some people squeezed out of the crowd and left with water. In addition to these people, there were people kneeling there and burning incense. There was a lot of water in the surrounding area. It was wet. The place that was surrounded by people should be the dry well. These people from above were ready to drive the others away. Before they could give orders, County Magistrate Cheng stood up and shouted, "Folks, please make way. The Imperial Court has sent people to look at this well." The people didn't even hesitate and made way. From this, one could see County Magistrate Cheng's prestige in the county. Everyone saw that a well without a platform appeared in front of them. There were also tools to fetch water beside it. These people were fetching water from here. Everyone gathered around to take a look. As they watched, they asked questions, especially the surrounding commoners. They were all called over for questioning. After some questioning, they had to admit that this was indeed an auspicious sign. During a drought, the dry well actually produced water. Some people even said that they saw the heavens use lightning to split the well. With a boom, there was water in the well. Some people said that they saw an immortal pass by the well. He lamented that it was dry here, so he used the thunder summoning technique to help blow up the well. There were all kinds of theories, but no matter which one it was, they all heard a loud boom. The people who came took note of this. Even if they had completed this task, they returned to the carriage and let the people continue fetching water. Some people even asked people to find things to hold water. They fetched some water so that they could drink tea when they returned. After a busy period, County Magistrate Cheng didn't wait for the people to have other thoughts. He asked them to go somewhere else to eat. He said that he wanted them to taste the specialties of Sanshui County. It was also a kind of action to help the people. When the people saw that everyone had left, they were more convinced of this auspicious sign. They went back to fetch water with pious expressions. "Don't rush. Slow down. It seems that we have to buy some kelp. There are too few people selling kelp here. When can we find a place by the sea that specializes in collecting kelp?" In Zhangzhe Zhuangzi, Wang Wan said to Huzi, who was working there. Then, she began to whisper to him. The thing that could enhance the taste was monosodium glutamate. It was boiled from kelp. She and Zhang Xiaobao knew how to make it. As for industrial processing, they couldn't do anything. After the kelp was boiled, it was taken out. It could be made into soup or used for other purposes. As long as the remaining water was dried, the monosodium glutamate would be deposited at the bottom. Since kelp was not easy to buy and there was not a lot of it, besides selling it to the 3 restaurants to help with branding, only the Yamen and Zhou Shihu could get some of it. The rest of the monosodium glutamate was kept. They were going to wait for the opening of the restaurants here. They also wanted to give some to Zhou Shihu's uncle. When the time came, if others wanted to eat it, they could only come here. Even if they specifically wanted to buy the monosodium glutamate, When they passed by between the clouds and the water restaurant, they would go up and take a look. Zhang Xiaobao didn't care about this matter. He held a piece of kelp in his hand and ground his teeth. Wang Wan saw that he didn't care, so she nudged him. Can you think of another way? This is all money. Think of another way? What way? I know that there are many things that can be made with monosodium glutamate, but I have to know how to do it. The process is complicated. Just hold on for a while. When the time comes, we will go to the seaside to collect it. This thing is not eaten by people. They are either fed to the ducks or thrown everywhere. Zhang Xiaobao swallowed a mouthful of kelp foam and answered with his head tilted. See, this place is not close to the sea. It will take more than half a month to get there. When Zhou Shihu's uncle comes, have you thought of what to use to treat him? If there's no other way, we can eat dumplings. That thing is dipped in soy sauce. We have a lot of soy sauce, so we can eat steamed buns. Wang Wan didn't know what to do about this. She had already asked Erhu to go out. The last time he went there, it was to buy stones. This time, it was to buy kelp, or to pick up kelp. This thing was not eaten by people there. Don't always think about soy sauce. Eat steamed buns. What if people like to eat gubuli steamed buns? That thing is authentic and only dipped in vinegar. Huzi, that's enough. Let's take it out. We will eat kelp for the next few days. Zhang Xiaobao stared at the other side and shouted to stop. He was worried about the cooked kelp. I have something to discuss with everyone. There is a recommendation list for historical novels. I am currently ranked 8. If I can reach the top 5, I will update 4 times a day. If I appear on the recommendation list, I will update 5 times a day. Clickable list is also fine, but clickable list is not easy to get. Another book I recommend, King Daoji Model Competition. Everyone, go and take a look. It is written well. Don't give your recommendation tickets to him. Chapter 95. Black clouds rolled and the ink-like wind blew. The new branches swayed and the seedlings fell into the water. Last night, the sky was still clear. Who would have thought that before they even woke up in the morning, a strong wind rolled in dark clouds and covered the entire sky. The villagers in the farmstead thought that there would be a heavy rain. So they all put on their clothes and stood outside the door, ignoring the flapping of the windows from the wind. The sky was supposed to be bright, but at this time, it was still dark. The surrounding trees were swaying back and forth in the wind. As the farmers waited for the heavy rain to fall, they suddenly thought that many of the rice seedlings in the fields might be blown over. They couldn't wait any longer. They put on their bamboo hats and hurried to the fields. The fallen seedlings had to be helped up as soon as possible. The farmers in Zhuangzi on the Zhang family and Wang family and the Gu family on Zhuangzi also started to move. Not only did the adults come out, but the children also wanted to help. In the end, when the farmers in Zhang family and Wang family arrived at the fields, what they saw was not a patch of fallen seedlings. Only a few seedlings had fallen, and there were other seedlings beside them. There was no need to help them up. It was just that some of the seedlings had fallen. When the wind stopped, they just had to move some of the seedlings from the denser areas. The farmers who felt a little strange began to walk towards the Gu family's Zhuangzi area to see if it was the same as here. When they arrived, they saw that the Gu family's Zhuangzi people had all jumped into the water and were helping the seedlings up one by one. There was even a woman who was crying. In the past, the Zhang family and Wang family's Zhuangzi people wouldn't care at all. After all, it wasn't their own land. Today, however, there were people who jumped into the water to help. After eating and wearing warm clothes, they could think of helping others. With so many people joining in, the speed at which the seedlings were being helped up also increased. Even if some seedlings fell back down, no one gave up. If they didn't do anything at this time, the seedlings could easily drown. The Gu family's Zhuangzi people thought that the Zhang family and Wang family's people were here to watch the show. Now that they saw that they were here to help, they were grateful but also doubtful. Could it be that they didn't care about their own seedlings? Little Wang, come and help. Where's your land? Don't want it anymore? Go back quickly. The main family is so good to you. If you can't deliver the food when the harvest comes, how can you face the main family? A farmer in Zhuangzi of the Gu family advised the people who had come to his family's land. There's no need. The seedlings in my family's field are fine. Compared to yours, they're stronger and taller. Do you think there will be heavy rain today? Little Wang Zi looked at the rice seedlings in the field. Compared to his own, he realized that the difference between the rice seedlings on both sides was quite large. Really? What kind of seeds do you have at home? The people from the Gu family in Zhuangzi did not believe it, but since they were here to help, they must be fine. Otherwise, they would be busy with their own things. As he spoke, he raised his head to look at the sky. It was so dark that it seemed like it would fall at any moment. However, not a single drop of rain fell. Little Wang Zi continued to bend over to support the seedlings. He raised his arm to wipe off the water that splashed on his face. I'm not lying. It's the same seeds as usual. But this time, the seeds were given by the main family. The grains left at home to be used as seeds can be eaten. Of course, little Wang Zi did not know that the seeds had been soaked in lime water by his family's young master and his wife, Cuckoo. They had done everything they could think of to increase the yield and prevent the disease. They had put in a lot of effort when selecting the seeds. They had also done some processing during the breeding process. When the seedlings were grown, they had also fertilized the seedlings well. With the addition of good fertilizer and wheat flour stones, and the use of the seedling throwing technique, the seedlings grew faster and stronger than other people's seedlings. A strong wind had proven all of this. According to Wang Wan's words, we have to let Zhuangzi win at the starting line with the grain. The people in the Gu family's manor straightened up and shook their backs. Looking at the slightly brighter sky, they felt that it was hot and unbearable. The clouds were still as dark as ever, pressing down even lower. It was dawn, but the sun was rising. It was not going to clear up. I don't believe you. If it's really the original seeds, why are they better than mine? Is it because the fertilizer is better? Tell me, what kind of fertilizer did you use? We have all kinds of stuff. Some of the fertilizer from our family and the fertilizer prepared by the main family last year. There's nothing else. Little Wang Zi really did not know why. Even if there was something different, he did not say it. Who would be willing to tell others their family's recipe? With so many people working together, the main family was naturally alarmed. When the main family of the Zhang family and Wang family heard that the farmers had gone to help the Gu family in Zhuangzi, they hurriedly asked the housekeeper to check. When the housekeeper saw the seedlings on his side of the field, he was stunned. When they went out, they thought that the farmers would not be able to help the seedlings by simply throwing them away. Now that they looked at it, it was not the case at all. They did not need to care about the seedlings at all. They moved with the wind. Some of them had already touched the water surface. When the wind passed, they straightened up again. It was really amazing. Old Wang, why do I feel that the seedlings are like humans standing there? They get up when they fall. Even if some of them are weaker and fall, their roots will not be pulled out. If it was last year, many seedlings would be floating on the water surface. Housekeeper Zhang stood on the ridge of the field and said to the equally surprised Housekeeper Wang. Housekeeper Wang also had the same feeling. When the little seedlings stubbornly fought against the strong wind, he couldn't help but want to cheer. In his eyes, these seedlings had become little babies with small arms and legs. They stood there chubby, energetic and cute. Who said it wasn't? After so many years of farming, this is the first time I've seen it. I don't even want to go back. I'm willing to stay here and watch. Look at those two strong seedlings. They are even blocking the wind for the seedlings behind. Let's not go back first. Let's go to Zhuangzi to take a look. At this time, Housekeeper Wang felt that the wind was so cool and refreshing. He also felt more energetic. He called out and walked towards Gu family's Zhuangzi. When the two of them arrived at Gu family's Zhuangzi side, they saw their own farmers helping there. When they got closer, they shook their heads at the same time. The seedlings were too weak. They could not be compared to their own seedlings. As long as they were blown away, they would not be able to get up again. Many seedlings floated up and spun on the water surface. In the Gu family's farmstead, there were farmers who were hoping for a good harvest by autumn. While they were busy putting the rice seedlings back, they were also wiping their tears. The children were also sensible enough to help. They imitated the adults and moved mechanically. Their eyes were full of confusion and helplessness, making people feel sad when they looked at them. The farmers from the Zhang and Wang estates who helped had calm expressions on their faces. After all, it wasn't their own family. They would help as much as they could. As for the harvest, they couldn't control it. They didn't have the ability to do so even if they wanted to. At the same time, they were also glad that their master's family was so capable. Even in such a strong wind, the rice sprouts stood in the wind and didn't fall. When someone saw the housekeeper of the main family coming over, he thought that the housekeeper was asking them to go back. He came forward and explained, "Steward Zhang, there is no problem on our side. When the wind passes, we can help those that fell over. They are quite pitiful here. Yes, we are not in a hurry to go back. It's a pity that..." Steward Zhang was not as difficult to talk to as before. He did not ask anyone to go back. He wanted to say something, but did not know how to start. He could not tell the farmers that it was a pity that Gu family did not have people like the young master and young lady in Zhuangzi. Guingxi also came over with the housekeeper. Looking at the situation in the field, his face was ugly. He tightly pursed his lips and frowned. His fists on both sides of his body were tightly clenched. He was the one who felt the most distressed. If there was less food, he wouldn't dare to collect more rent. He couldn't just watch the farmers starve to death in front of him. It would be fine if the government reduced the rent, but if they didn't, then he would have to compensate for his losses. "Master, you have to think of something quickly. It's useless to just support them like this. What if there's another heavy rain later? Some of the broken seedlings will be washed away by the water. If there's really no other way, we have to rush to replant them." Housekeeper Gu also had a distressed look. He looked up at the sky and said worriedly, "We still need to support them. You go back quickly and ask all the servants in the yard to come here. They can help a little." Are these the farmers of Zhang family and Wang family in Zhuangzi? Why don't they care about their own family and come here to help? Guingxi did not want to give up. Seeing that the manpower was still not enough, he even asked the people of the main family to call. At the same time, he was puzzled about the people of Zhang family and Lai family coming here. Gumura Mesa also came here? If there is no other way, I will go back and discuss with Master and give some seedlings to this side. Maybe it will work. Housekeeper Wang saw Guingxi and came over to say. Guingxi just realized that the two housekeepers also came. Just now, he was concerned about the situation in the field and did not look to the side. What? Zhang family seedlings in Zhuangzi are better than mine? Guingxi felt that he could still afford to give some seedlings, but the farmers could not. It is not much better. It is just a strong wind blowing and not falling. Of course, we can't help for free. Housekeeper Gu, you have to give us 3 times the amount of seedlings. Housekeeper Wang's face was indifferent. He felt that it was reasonable to say that the seedlings were good. Guingxi was stunned and suddenly said, "I don't believe it. Let me go and see." After saying that, he did not care about this side and hurriedly crossed the small bridge and came to the Wang family's Zhuangzi land. He stood there and looked carefully. He was speechless. Compared to the seedlings on both sides, his side was like a child without milk. Their arms and legs were thin, and the other side was as strong as a calf. No wonder they all went to my house to help. It turns out that they did not care about their seedlings at all. What happened to Zhang family and Wang family in less than a year? It is fine if they have a way to make money, but the seedlings are also like this. This is too much. They are clearly the same seedlings, not a new type of seedling. After muttering a few words, Guingxi finally made up his mind. He turned around and ran back. When he saw Steward Zhang and Steward Wang, who were still standing there, he begged, "Just now, I didn't know how to be reasonable. 3 times the amount of food. Here, please help me say something." There are 2 more chapters. Chapter 96. It was almost noon. The clouds had not dispersed and the wind was still howling. Zhang Xiaobao and Wang Wan finally had enough sleep. When the sky was overcast, they wanted to sleep. They got up and ate something. The 2 of them rode the cart made by the carpenter and went outside to see how Zhuangzi was doing. The 2 of them sat in front and behind. The cart was made of wood and had no chains. Both wheels had to be pedaled. The person sitting in front was responsible for controlling the direction. The person behind was more tired and had to keep up with the person in front. There were 2 pieces of wood at the back of the cart. There were 2 small wheels on top of the wood to maintain balance. The wheels were 3 inches wide and 5 inches in diameter. They would not fall over even if they stood there. Xiaobao, do you think it will rain heavily? If it does, we should release the water. This time, Wang Wan was in front. She was controlling the direction while asking, how would I know? We will talk about it later. We are not in a hurry to release the water. If we release the water and there is no rain, how are we going to survive these few months? Millet, wheat, rice, and sorghum all need water. The vegetable field cannot be lacking. The trees cannot be withered. There is also water for daily life. Zhang Xiaobao looked at Wang Wan from the corner of his eyes. The two of them were moving at the same time. The cart moved forward slowly. It was not as fast as the two of them running. The main reason was that they did not want others to serve them. If they went out alone, they would be afraid of falling. But if they rode the cart, they would not have to worry about falling. Zhang Xiaobao replied to Wang Wan. In his heart, he was thinking about whether to give the county the 1,500 taels of silver. He could take out this amount of money. He still had a lot of money left. If he made those burned beans and sold them as soy sauce, he could make a lot of money. 55,000 dan. For every 5 jin, he could make 2 copper coins. According to this price, he could make almost 32 copper coins per dan. If he sold all these, he could make 1,740 taels of silver. The main reason was that he did not spend any money on soybeans. As for whether he could sell them and where he sold them, it was up to him. If he wanted to make money, he had to sell them. Logically speaking, he should give them money. He did not lose money. If he really lost money, it was because he exchanged the wood ear for soybeans. He lost some money. What are you thinking about? Why haven't you spoken for a long time? Wang Wan noticed that Zhang Xiaobao was silent, so she turned her head and asked, didn't County Magistrate Chang say that he wants money from us? I was just thinking whether to give it to him or not. If it were up to me, I wouldn't give it to him. Why should I give him so much money? Our family's money doesn't come from nowhere. How much have we helped him? Give me an inch, and you want a mile? Why don't we give him less? It's not easy for him. This is also considered an investment. Don't those Western countries do this a lot? Wang Wan was definitely not a child. She still understood some things. In the beginning, she said that she would not give it to him, but later on, she compromised. And then I'll give it to him. But I definitely can't give it to him directly. I want to exchange it for something else. I heard from Song Jingong that the soil on the south coast of Little Luoxia is not bad. There are some rocky mountains on the north coast. There are few trees on the mountains, and it's not suitable for farming. That's 1,500 taels of silver. No one would be unwilling to buy a mountain like that. It's just a waste to leave it there. If we buy it, won't County Magistrate Chang be able to use the money? Zhang Xiaobao thought for a while and gave such an answer. Wang Wan stopped and looked back at Zhang Xiaobao. Didn't you say that that place is more than 1,000 mu? You want to buy it with 1,500 taels of silver? 1,800 mu is only 1 square kilometer. That place is made of rocky mountains. 1 tael of silver per mu is not a small amount. If you add a little more, you can buy a mu of land. He should be secretly happy. This is also because that place has no production and doesn't need to pay taxes. Otherwise, who would buy it? Zhang Xiaobao said it with confidence. If Wang Wan didn't know what kind of person he was, she would definitely be moved by his righteousness. In reality, the more Wang Wan listened to Zhang Xiaobao, the more she felt that there was a problem. But she didn't directly expose him. Oh, so that's how it is. You lost money, right? You must not pay taxes. Last year, 5 families in Zhuangzi didn't produce silk, but they paid an extra 70 taels of silver. It was my family that paid for it. What is this? This year, I think they should pay it too. Why don't we change it? If you can pay from your family to my family, you can directly waive the tax. Those 7 families don't have good lives. If you can help them, help them. Do you know how to calculate? If you change my family's people, then won't my family have to pay too? It's just a transfer of losses. You are harming others to benefit yourself. The fundamental problem is not solved at all. Fine, leave this matter to me. This year, let them raise more chickens. When the time comes, use eggs and chicken to pay. Why are they so stubbornly guarding the land that they can't grow? Zhang Xiaobao knew that those 7 families all had patients in their families. Last year, there was no welfare for them. They spent a lot of money on medicine. At the end of the year, when they paid the rent, they didn't hand in any silk, so they paid an extra 14 taels of silver. This year, there was welfare, and they could find some easy work for them to do. They could use this money to pay the rent. All right, then tell me, did you really buy that place with the intention of losing money? Wang Wan was relieved. Those 7 families had better lives in the future. Otherwise, 14 taels of silver could drag them down. Although it was paid, it still needed to be paid. No matter how good the master family was, it was impossible for them to pay for the village. The rent had to be paid by the person who should pay. She and Zhang Xiaobao could find ways to make money, but they couldn't directly contribute money. Extra money was special. At the end of the year, all the families had to pay more money, including various kinds of insurance and funds. This money or other things were collected and let Zhang Xiaobao operate it. When they earned more money, other than the funds for medical care and various kinds of houses, the extra money would be used to pay welfare, improve the road conditions in Zhuangzi, and so on. She didn't have to worry about this, so she asked about the place where they bought the land. It's better than taking the money out for nothing. If we can exchange it for something, we should. When the time comes to build houses in Zhuangzi, there are stones there. No matter what, we have to support County Magistrate Cheng. Zhang Xiaobao looked helpless. Wang Wan suddenly laughed. Are you fooling a fool? Forget it. I won't ask you anymore. I don't believe that you won't do anything after buying the land. Let's go and see our little seedlings. I've decided to set up a team to protect all kinds of seedlings. I've even thought of a name. It'll be called Vigorous Seedling Protection Team. The 2 of them were riding forward when Steward Wang hurried over from the other side. Young lady, young master, the Gu family has lost a lot of Zhuangzi. I've told Guingxi that we can help them replenish some seedlings. He wants to provide 3 times the amount of seeds. What do you think? If it's not enough, we can raise the price. Steward Wang asked Zhang Xiaobao and Wang Wan. This was what they had agreed before. If the Gu family was in trouble in Zhuangzi, they could help according to the situation. Otherwise, he wouldn't dare to act on his own accord. Sure, why not? It's 3 times the amount. It won't take much effort. Ask him how many seedlings he wants. Tell him that the grain must be able to be used as seeds. Otherwise, the price will be doubled. If he takes 3 times the amount of ordinary grain, we'll suffer a loss. Xiaobao, I've decided. From next year onwards, we'll start selling rice seedlings. We can use this year's harvest to advertise. We'll also find a few smart people and let them study the hybrid rice. You know how to do this, right? Wang Wan settled the matter. No, I don't know. I don't want to learn that kind of small knowledge that can only feed a few 100 million more people. Zhang Xiaobao shook his head disdainfully. I finally realized that you're too thick-skinned. Then let's study the big knowledge. Physics. Now, you can ride on your own. I'll show you the direction. Let's see how much effort you need to get us to the nearest paddy field in 10 minutes. In Sanshui County, County Magistrate Cheng accompanied the various people who came down from the top. The first thing he had to do was to treat them well. There were dozens of people in the party. Only a few of them were here to do the work. The rest were here to take advantage of the situation. Logically speaking, County Magistrate Cheng not only had to treat these people well, but he also had to give them some money to pay for the journey. However, he wasn't greedy and didn't collect much money. He had to pay more than 100 taels for each trip. With so many people, where could he get tens of thousands of taels of silver? Therefore, he didn't pay for the journey. These people originally wanted to play for a while and get some benefits. However, seeing that the county magistrate didn't know how to appreciate their kindness, they didn't treat him well. From time to time, some people would find fault with him. For example, the streets were too messy. Of course, if they paid, they would say that it was bustling. County Magistrate Cheng was well aware of this. He didn't make any excuses and let them say whatever they wanted. It was cloudy this year, so County Magistrate Cheng was happy. He hoped that there would be rain to alleviate the disaster. However, some people said that it was cold. County Magistrate Cheng was angry and found the Deputy County Magistrate. After a few words, the Deputy County Magistrate glanced at those people and left. After waiting for them to leave, County Magistrate Cheng started to work on the case. In fact, there weren't many cases. Since Zhou Shihu stopped making trouble, County Magistrate Chang dealt with those wandering gangs. The county became much more stable. It was just a case where a chicken that laid eggs suddenly went missing or a cow that got sick. For the people at the top, they didn't need to care about such small things. However, for the people, it was a big loss. If the chicken went missing, there would be no eggs. Perhaps the family was counting on the eggs to survive. Even if they sold the chicken, they could get some firewood. Qindong, go to Li Lu's house and have a look. Why is his pig not eating? County Magistrate Cheng threw a stick from the case and ordered the bailiff, who often went to Zhangjia Zhuangzi. Yes, I'll go and have a look. Qindong had long been used to these kinds of messy things. He took the stick and left in a hurry. If the pig starved to death, Li Lu's family would lose a few taels of silver. Songyang, go to Shay village and have a look. Why is one duck missing from Wang Wu's house? Find out whether it was dragged away by something in the river or stolen by someone. County Magistrate Chang dealt with the cases one by one. The people who came to look for him were all waiting, hoping that the county magistrate could help them solve these important problems. The whole morning passed under such circumstances. The deputy county magistrate also rushed back and told County Magistrate Cheng that everything was arranged properly. County Magistrate Cheng then left the interrogation hall and turned around to invite those people to eat. Chapter 97. Seeing that County Magistrate Cheng had come to invite them to eat, these impatient people followed him without saying anything. They were quite satisfied with the food prepared by County Magistrate Cheng these 2 days. As long as County Magistrate Cheng led them to the same place, the taste of the same dish was better than what they had eaten before. Zhou Shihu's uncle, Zhou Qiong, was also among them. He was not like those who came to enjoy. When everyone else was arranged to get on the carriage, he found County Magistrate Cheng and ran. You must have spent a lot of money these 2 days, right? I can see that you are different from other county magistrates. Why don't you find more ways to make money? There was an obvious hint in his words. You are a county magistrate who has not been promoted or demoted in the past few years. Your position is stable. Why don't you make more money? It is not like there are no rich families in the county. County Magistrate Cheng smiled helplessly. You are right. But as an official, it is enough to eat, drink, and live. How can I trouble the people? Sir, please get on the carriage. After sending Zhou Qiong to the carriage, County Magistrate Cheng sighed. He did not know who to tell. There are still a few people in Sanshui County who cannot be touched. They have retired. Why don't you try to touch them? Some transactions are controlled by these people. Besides this, there is also Zhou Qiong's nephew, Zhou Shihu. Look at him now. He was not like this in the past. He caused trouble all day long. County Magistrate Cheng was too busy to take care of him. Where can he get money? Take it from the people? How much danger would that entail? During the first 2 years when the new emperor was in power, the officialdom was in chaos. County Magistrate Cheng did not dare to do anything. During the first 2 years when the new emperor was in power, County Magistrate Cheng did not dare to do anything. It was not worth it if he was treated like a chicken and killed to show the monkeys. Last year, he finally relaxed a little, but before he could do anything, an auspicious sign appeared. So many pairs of eyes were staring at it. This year, another auspicious sign appeared. This was good. He could make decisions for the people with peace of mind. Giving gifts during the new year would spread his reputation as a good official. No matter how stupid he was, he would not do something that would destroy his own reputation. What's more, Zhangjia Zhuangzi was being watched by a master. Who knew what those 2 people were thinking? If he really did something that would infuriate the heavens, what would he do if the expert got angry? He walked to his own carriage. Before he got on, he glanced at the other people's carriages who were in a hurry to leave. He sneered and entered the carriage. This time, only the 2 bailiffs and the deputy district magistrate followed them. The rest of the yamen did not follow them. They knew that this time, they would suffer and would not be able to eat anything delicious. If he wanted to eat, he might as well go home. He still had some salted vegetables sent by Zhangjia Zhuangzi at home. He didn't know what they put in them, but the taste was different from other places. It wasn't particularly salty, but it was refreshing with a hint of freshness. When he drank it with the porridge, the taste was indescribable. Once County Magistrate Cheng's carriages started to move, they could not stop. They actually walked for more than an hour. The people in the carriages were puzzled. They had already passed through the prosperous areas of the county. Could it be that there was a good hotel hidden in a remote place? Thinking of this, those who had such thoughts became excited. They wanted to go to a place with mountains and rivers. It would be best if there were a few small bridges and some pavilions. They could eat delicious food that they had never eaten in other places, talk about the scenery, and recite a few lines of poetry. This trip was not in vain. Thinking of this, their mood became better. They did not feel annoyed sitting in the carriage. "Uncle, something seems wrong. There is no restaurant here. Even the roadside tea stalls are a pile of rubbish. Where does County Magistrate Chang want to take me?" Others did not know the situation here, but Zhou Shihu knew. He followed a group of bad friends. Back then, he rode a horse and went around the entire county. He already knew where there was anything. "Xiaohu, are you sure? I don't know where we will go if we continue on this road. Could it be that we are going out of Sanshui County?" When Zhou Shihu heard this, he could not help but be surprised. He asked his nephew softly. Zhou Shihu waved his hand. "If we want to go out of the county, we will have to walk until midnight. There is a village in front of us. Although it is called a village, in fact, there are only a dozen families. There is not even a river around it. They can't dig a well for drinking water. They all drink water from a water bottle in the mountains. They are farming inferior fields. Not to mention that the harvest is not guaranteed. I think County Magistrate Cheng is crazy and wants to take him there. Forget it, I don't expect to eat anything. Uncle, come. Luckily, I'm used to eating the food made by the Zhang family's farmstead and brought some. Eat first, otherwise you'll be hungry later." After another quarter of an hour, the vehicles in front won't be able to pass and will have to get off and walk. "County Magistrate Cheng, you'd better take a shortcut, otherwise we'll have to climb the mountain." Zhou Shihu jumped off the car and ran to his small car. He took some things and came back. He put the things in front of his uncle and poured half a bowl of wine for his uncle. He signaled his uncle to eat. Zhou Shihu was not pretentious. He could already guess what he would eat when he entered the village. His body was his, and he would feel bad if he was starving. He picked up the food that his nephew gave him and ate it. Zhou Shihu also ate. Sure enough, just as Zhou Shihu said, when the uncle and nephew finished eating, the team stopped. County Magistrate Cheng jumped off the car first and said to the crowd, "Everyone, the carriages in front are no longer feasible. It is better to get off and walk. After walking for a while, we will reach a good place." "Really? County Magistrate Cheng, is it a place with mountains and rivers?" A person who was holding back his hunger fantasy asked happily. "Yes. Just like the poem recited by young Master Song, there is no road. We know about this." Song Jinggong's quote from Song Jinggong, the gifted scholar song, has already spread to the other side. The next sentence is, "There is a light at the end of the tunnel." Good place to go. Before County Magistrate Cheng could finish his sentence, this person said and shook his head as if he was the one who wrote the poem. "Then, you will have to work hard." Cheng Lingxiang had a smile on his face. He raised his hand and led the way with the deputy district magistrate and 2 bailiffs. "It's okay. It's okay. I didn't expect there to be such a good place in Sanshui County. Everyone, please." This person also smiled and waved his hand. He pretended not to care and followed behind. The others naturally followed. At first, the road was still easy to walk on, but after half an hour, there was no road under his feet. He could only vaguely see that there was a trace of less grass in the half-withered grass. It should be that someone had walked by occasionally, which was why it was like this. Zhou Shihu stayed beside his uncle with 2 water bags on his back. Seeing that the crowd was still talking about the scenery, he whispered to his uncle, "Uncle, it's over. County Magistrate Cheng really wants to torture people. If we walk to the village on this road, we may see people before dark. If we really want to go there, we will have to walk for 2 hours. Fortunately, I brought enough water. I know that County Magistrate Cheng is not a good person. I will get you a stick later. You can use it as a crutch. Don't force yourself." As Zhou Shihu spoke, his eyes looked around, trying to find a suitable branch. He knew that his uncle rarely walked so far and would get tired easily. Zhou Shihu did not doubt his uncle. Zhou Qiong did not doubt his nephew. When he heard these words, he took a deep breath and prepared himself for suffering. Looking at the water skin on his nephew's back, he was very satisfied. His nephew was really sensible now. He knew how to do business to earn money for his family. He knew how to care for others and even made some arrangements in advance. When he went to the Zhang family's farmstead, he had to thank them properly. Suddenly, he thought of something and asked his nephew in a low voice, "Xiaohu, I didn't eat the beef jerky in the car just now. I thought it was too dry. Did you bring it? I think you will be hungry when you see people." Pong, pong, pong. Zhou Shihu patted his arms and winked. "Uncle, don't worry. I've brought everything. Didn't you see me go back to my car when I got off the bus? Not only did I bring the beef jerky, but I also wrapped a large scallion pancake and 2 salted duck eggs in oil paper. These were all made by Zhangjia Zhuangzi. Unfortunately, there was no hot water. Otherwise, there would be beef marrow oil tea noodles in my car. They are all gifts for me to show filial piety to my elders. I eat now, and usually go to their shop. The price is cheap and the taste is not bad. These pancakes were bought this morning." Zhou Qiong looked over and found that his nephew's body was indeed bulging. He couldn't help but sigh. His nephew had gotten lucky this time because of the trouble he caused. Someone who could help a business partner to be filial to their elders couldn't be a bad person. At this time, he could not wait to get rid of these people and go to Zhuangzi to thank them. He also wanted to see what he could do to help. He could not just wait to take advantage of them. Zhou Shihu and his nephew Zhou Shihu were ready. County Magistrate Chang had also eaten and drank to his heart's content. The 2 fourth-rank officials from the imperial court had also been given tea and snacks by the yamen runners. They must have eaten some, so they did not have to worry about being hungry. As for the rest of the people, they were suppressing the nausea in their stomachs and talking about the flowers and trees. When the drought came, the flowers were about to wither and the grass was wilting. The scenery was not so charming. County Magistrate Chang still had the same smile on his face. As he walked, he sped up slightly. Everyone followed him, and the group of people walked towards the legendary another village. Chapter 98. As the night approached, the stars in the distance were slightly visible and the moon was new. The sky was clear and cloudless. Who played the flute again? The sound of the flute was like the sound of the mountains. At this moment, it really looks like the residence of the immortals. "Uncle, what do you think?" Zhou Shihu and his uncle walked to a place about 10 steps away from the others. They found a large rock and sat down. They faced the other mountain and spoke loudly. Those who came to take advantage of them were no longer as spirited as before. They lay there like dead dogs. They did not care if the half-withered grass pricked their bodies and did not care if the dew in the night would catch a cold. They did not have any strength in their bodies, and their stomachs did not stop growling. Originally, they thought that County Magistrate Chang had already arranged for them to eat when they were tired. In the beginning, they could still hold on for a while. After walking for 4 hours, people began to ask County Magistrate Chang. Every time, County Magistrate Chang would reply, "Soon. We'll be there soon." They had walked for a long time. It was already 1/4 midnight. After a while, it would be midnight. They could see that there were a few faint lights flashing in front of them. They also heard the sound of the flute. At first, they felt that it was melodious, but now it was ear-piercing. "County Magistrate Chang, are you planning to kill us? Why are you not getting us some food at this point?" A person lay there and looked sideways at County Magistrate Chang, who also did not have much energy. County Magistrate Chang was also tired. Other than the 2 yamen runners who often worked, everyone else was tired. The only difference was that the 2 rank 4 officials, the yamen runners, the deputy county magistrate, Zhou Shihu's uncle and nephew, and the county magistrate himself had eaten before. The others did not have anything to eat. They only had some porridge in the morning. Until now, they had to walk on the mountain road. They were able to persevere because it would be further to go back. County Magistrate Cheng took a sip of water and said, "I heard that this place is better, but I didn't expect it to be so fast. I thought I would arrive at dusk, but I miscalculated. I'm sorry, my lords. Please drink some water first and save it. When we came here, We prepared half a bag of water, so there's not much left. As they were talking, County Magistrate Chung ordered the bailiffs to bring water to everyone. Those who came to take advantage of the situation were given large water bags. Everyone drank a few mouthfuls of water. When it came to the two officials in charge, they were given small water bags. The two officials took the water bags and drank as usual. Suddenly, they were stunned. Under the moonlight, they glanced at everyone else. Wei Wei leaned over and started to drink slowly. The two of them drank and chewed at the same time. They tried their best to prevent the sound of their chewing from being heard. The bowl was filled with thick lotus seed porridge. It was a little cold, but it was better than being hungry. The bailiffs brought it to Zhou Shihu. Zhou Shihu opened it and smelled it. He passed it over and indicated that there was no need. He took out a salted duck egg and gave it to the bailiffs. The bailiffs were stunned and nodded gratefully. They took the salted duck egg and turned to leave. "Uncle, eat something. Looking at the situation, we have to leave soon. We still have 4 hours to go. Try this scallion pancake." Zhou Shihu looked back at the people who only had water to drink. He chuckled and took out the pancake. He tore off a piece and gave it to his uncle. "It's delicious. When your father and I were young, our family was poor and we couldn't eat anything. One day, we picked up a piece of pancake that someone accidentally dropped on the ground. Your father and I ate it for 3 days. It tasted similar to this. Why is the duck egg so salty?" Zhou Qiong took a bite of the pancake and ate a little of the duck egg white. He whispered to his nephew. Zhou Shihu ate as well. He took out the beef jerky and put it into his mouth. "It's not salty, so not many people buy it. The small shops here at the Zhang family's farmstead are only for people who don't have a lot of money to eat. Usually, a few people go there and order 2 dishes and a few salted duck eggs. They eat almost all of the dishes with wine and then eat some staple food. 1 duck egg is enough. There are also some who go inside and ask for a bowl of wine and a salted egg. Eggs are cheap. After sipping a bit of salted egg and drinking a mouthful of wine, they can put away the remaining half of the salted egg and still have enough for 2 meals. If it's too light, they won't be able to eat anymore. That's why many people go to his store to eat." "I see. This is the first time I've heard of such a thing. But since they have a recipe to make the dishes taste better, why don't they buy a place in the county and open a restaurant?" Zhou Qiong sighed and felt a little puzzled. Zhou Shihu shook his head. "I don't know. That Zhuangzi is always bold and imaginative. Uncle, eat some more pancake and drink some water." He passed the water bag to his uncle and waited for him to finish the pancake. Otherwise, the salted duck egg taste would still be in his mouth. Some people were hungry while others were eating stealthily. After a quarter of an hour, County Magistrate Chung, who finished the porridge, said, "My lords, we've rested enough. Shall we continue?" I can't walk anymore." County Magistrate Chung, "Ask someone to get some food and 2 blankets from the house over there. We can't walk anymore." The person who spoke first was now acting like a rascal. He lay there and sighed. With him taking the lead, the others didn't move. They just waited there. They didn't believe that County Magistrate Chung would let them starve to death here. County Magistrate Chung thought for a while and nodded. "All right. Since you're willing to wait here, I'll go ahead with the 3 lords. When we get there, I'll ask someone to send the food. Take care, my lords." County Magistrate Chung was about to leave. The 3 lords he was talking about were the 2 from the Imperial Court and Zhou Qiong. The Yamen Runner, Deputy County Magistrate, and Zhou Shihu all got up. Zhou Qiong and the other 2 had eaten, so of course, they had to follow. After they left and walked dozens of steps, one of the people who were still lying on the ground screamed, "Oh no, once they leave, County Magistrate Chung will prepare food and drinks for the 3 lords first and then think of us. Won't the food be sent tomorrow morning? The Yamen Runner can rest on the way. We'll either starve to death or freeze to death. I have to follow." As soon as he finished speaking, he got up and ran. He didn't look hungry or tired at all. He was forced to do so. The others were stunned for a while and then followed him. They didn't think that they would die from the cold or starvation. It would be fine for them to survive for a few days, but they would suffer a lot. Hearing the footsteps behind him, County Magistrate Chung raised the corner of his mouth but didn't say anything. The two Yamen runners led the way in front. Fortunately, there was still some light from the stars and the moon. Otherwise, they would have to walk until the next morning. Along the way, no one spoke. There was nothing to say. They were so tired that even breathing was strenuous. Only when it was evening did they arrive at their destination. There were more than 30 houses and more than a dozen families. There was a torch lit, and there were more than 20 people standing there, waiting. "My lord, why are you so late?" I didn't do a good job." As soon as County Magistrate Cheng and the others appeared, Song Jinggong came up and said apologetically. He was arranged by Zhang Xiaobao to come. He didn't intend to torture them. He just asked County Magistrate Cheng to lead them to a place and let Zhou Shihu's uncle secretly go to Zhangjia Zhuangzi. In the end, County Magistrate Cheng was angry and changed the plan slightly. That was why it turned out like this. You can't even do such a small thing? Is it so difficult to prepare some food? County Magistrate Cheng's face darkened and he shouted. When the people who came to take advantage of the situation heard this, they understood that County Magistrate Cheng had already arranged for people to come here and prepare. It seemed that the people who came didn't succeed. The hope just now turned into disappointment. They would starve to death if they didn't have food. Song Jinggong lowered his head even more and explained, "My lord, it's not that we didn't prepare food. The people here did prepare food, but they asked for money. I didn't bring any money." "My lord, did you bring any?" County Magistrate Cheng shook his head and turned around to ask, "I didn't bring any. I'll ask the other lords." "My lords, the food over there is already prepared. May I know which lord has money?" Everyone shook their heads. Who would bring money when they went down? They were all waiting to take the money back. Zhou Shihu did bring some, but he wouldn't take it out stupidly. He imitated others and shook his head like a rattled drum. They didn't bring any money. What should we do? Why don't we put them on credit first? I'll send them the money later." "Zijin, you go and discuss with them," County Magistrate Cheng said awkwardly. Song Jinggong followed the order and left. After a while, he turned around and smiled helplessly. "My lord, it won't work. They don't believe me. I'll send them the money later." "Don't put them on credit. I have a jade pendant. I'll leave it with them first. County Magistrate Cheng can help me get it back." An official was so hungry that he couldn't bear it anymore. He took out a jade pendant that was supposed to be hanging on his waist and handed it over. He was a little distressed. He was afraid that it would be scratched when he went up the mountain, so he put it in his pocket. Song Jinggong took the jade pendant and went to discuss with them. After a while, two people came back. In addition to Song Jinggong, there was an old man with wrinkles on his face. His hair and beard were all white. He carried a piggyback. He walked over and said, "My lords, it's not that the villagers are stingy. It's just that life is hard. The weather is dry, and we don't know how the harvest will be in autumn. The villagers are all afraid." "Oh, I'm the chief of the village. My surname is Qin. My lords, you can call me Old Tua." After saying this, he didn't wait for others to speak and continued, "I don't know which lord this pendant belongs to. Forgive me for my poor eyesight. I can't tell whether this is jade or stone. It may be worth a lot of money to a knowledgeable person, but in the village, it's not as good as half a bowl of coarse chaff. My lord, please take this stone." "Oh no, jade pendant back." "How can this be a stone?" You? The official who took out the jade pendant carefully took it in his hand and stared at the old man. "It's not a stone. I was wrong. Jade. It's jade. It's good jade, but no one in the village knows." This Qin village chief was obviously scared. He explained incoherently while trembling. He meant that the jade was not good, but there was food. "Let's see what you can exchange for it." County Magistrate Cheng held back his laughter. He felt that this Qin village chief was so nice, so he came out to smooth things over. "My lord, don't be angry. It's not worth arguing with them. Qin village chief, tell me, how can you give us food?" Chapter 99. The moon was like a hook. The night was serene. The lonely light lit the lamp oil. The brush did not rest. The ink was gently crushed. The wrist was slowly retracted. Two figures were left on the wall, accompanying each other in their hearts. Zhang Xiaobao and Wang Wan ate dinner and slept for 4 hours. They woke up in the middle of the night to study and practice calligraphy. Both of them knew that happiness was not given to them by others. They had to pursue it themselves. While they were young, they were more sensible than other children. They had to learn more in order to be useful in the future. This was especially so for Zhang Xiaobao. He still had to take the imperial examinations. With an official position, it would be more convenient for him to do things. Their plan was to sleep for 5.5 hours a day. After dinner, they would sleep for 4 hours. They would wake up and study for 4 hours. After dinner, they would sleep until 2 and then sleep until 6. After dinner, they would train by playing games. After taking a shower, they would sleep for an hour. After lunch, they would sleep for 2 hours if there were no important matters. That was how the day was going to be. They would make special arrangements if they encountered special situations. Zhang Xiaobao and Wang Wan had been specially trained to sleep. There were 2 types. One was to enter a deep sleep quickly, which would speed up the recovery of the body. The other was to be half asleep. If there was no movement and no threat, it meant that they were asleep. If not, they would immediately wake up and react subconsciously. The 2 of them were still learning the Analects of Confucius. In fact, they had already memorized it. However, when Zhang Xiaobao's father taught them, they were able to comprehend it by analogy. Any sentence he took out would contain a certain story. Even so, they were not high scholars. Other than the fact that Zhang Xiaobao did not understand the rules of the examinations, it also showed how difficult the imperial examinations were. Pomegranate slept early and lay down in the outer room. She had many things to do during the day and did not have such treatment. However, Zhang Xiaobao and Wang Wan had given it to her. There were also 2 people patrolling at night in the outer room, so she did not have to worry about not being able to react in time. Zhou Shihu's uncle will be here soon. County Magistrate Cheng actually came up with such a despicable move. If the Yamen had not come to inform us at night, I would have thought that County Magistrate Cheng would treat those people well so that they would not be able to focus on others. After writing for more than an hour, Wang Wan stopped. She rubbed her wrists and flicked the oil lamp. With 2 crackling sounds, the light was brighter. Yes, those people are just low-ranking officials and have no real power. You don't have to worry about County Magistrate Cheng offending them. What's more, as long as County Magistrate Cheng doesn't let them know who arranged it, they can only hate the villagers over there. When they go back, it's impossible for them to take revenge. The villagers' lives are worthless, but their future is more important. One lamp was too dim. If he added more and changed it to a candle, he would earn so much money but not spend it. If he burned his eyes, where would he go to treat it? Someone, take 3 candles and light them all. Zhang Xiaobao analyzed the situation for a while and felt his eyes ache. He called for the night watch outside to bring in the candles. When the 2 maidservants who were chatting and eating snacks heard the commotion inside, they didn't dare to be negligent and brought in the candles. They didn't bring 3 candles, but a bundle so that it would be easier to change them later. When the candles were lit, the brightness of the room immediately changed. Zhang Xiaobao was satisfied. It's okay. By the way, is my father also studying at night? Send some candles to my father too. If he doesn't want them, take my oil lamp. Even if you earn money, your family will suffer. Why should you earn more? The 2 maidservants didn't say anything. They took the oil lamp and went out. One of them continued to stand guard while the other went out. Looking at the night sky outside, she shivered. Fortunately, there was a torch in the courtyard that swayed with the wind, so it wasn't so dark. She gave herself courage and walked to another courtyard. Just as she walked to a dark corner, she noticed that there seemed to be a shadow moving there. She was so scared that she almost dropped the lamp in her hand. Seeing that the shadow moved and stopped moving, she finally let out a sigh of relief. Remembering that this was the person who had been arranged by the manor, she finally felt relieved. She had just been here for a month, and her family of 5 had fled here. During the spring plowing, not a drop of water had fallen. They had all signed death contracts. Today was her first night watch. She had only heard about it, but was not familiar with it. Naturally, she was afraid at night. Now that she felt the arrangement of Zhuangzi, a happy smile appeared on her pale face. She felt that this was the feeling of home, helping each other and working hard. She didn't have to worry about anything else. She didn't know that Zhuangzi had put in a lot of effort when choosing people. Out of so many families, only 2 families were chosen. They even had to report to the government. It seems that this drought is inevitable. I'm relieved. It's so gloomy during the day, but there's not a single drop of rain. When will our food, chickens, and ducks be sent there? It's a long journey, and it will take a long time. Wang Wan dipped the brush in the ink and was ready to write. She asked Zhang Xiaobao, "In 2 months, when the locusts are showing signs, we will set off. When we arrive, they will be in a hurry to destroy the locusts. Cherries can also bring the newly hatched chickens with us. We can eat the locusts, sell the eggs, and exchange them for other things. Are we bringing the chickens back?" Wang Wan asked again. Zhang Xiaobao nodded affirmatively and said, "Of course we're bringing them back. We can lay eggs, and we hope to increase the income of the farmers. We don't need to feed them extra food on the way back. The locusts can fly. I think we can have some here in the name of destroying the locusts for the people. The righteous will be on our side." Wang Wan, who was about to write, put down the brush when she heard this. She stared at Zhang Xiaobao and said, "Are you stupid? What righteous? When there was a plague of locusts, the people were kneeling down. It was that Yao guy who took the responsibility and started to destroy the locusts." "You're right. History says that he destroyed the locusts in time. In fact, it's just that he didn't let the locusts spread widely. Those 2 places suffered a lot. Li Longji wanted to destroy the locusts, but he didn't want to take the responsibility of offending the heavens. The officials and the people didn't want to destroy the locusts. If that's the case, we can't use the righteous name on the way back. We have to think of a way. That's right, we can eat the locusts on the way back. We can use the eggs to exchange for other things other than food. We can say that these chickens are specially used to deliver eggs to the people during the disaster. We can ask Yao Gai to send down a memorial. With so many chickens and ducks, it's a grand display of grace." Zhang Xiaobao finally found an entry point. He picked up the brush and continued writing. Wang Wan smiled and said, "You're such a liar. What grand display of grace? The locusts are even grander. Shouldn't they be destroyed? You can't control the strength of your writing. Why don't you tie a sandbag?" "No, I don't want to leave any sequelae with my small arms and legs. Tomorrow, Zhou Shihu's uncle might be here. I'll learn." Zhang Xiaobao yawned and picked up the towel in the basin beside him. He wiped his face and felt more energetic. He continued writing. "Is this something for humans to eat? There's not even a bowl of soup. Bah." In the small village in the mountains, County Magistrate Chung and the group could finally eat. The villagers served rice, 1 rice ball after another. To be precise, it was steamed rice with coarse bran and some wild vegetables. When one took a bite, one would feel a bitter taste in the mouth. When one wanted to swallow it directly, one would find that one's throat was almost torn. As long as one bit hard, one's mouth would be full of dregs. Cold water would be poured down. Starting from the neck, the line was burning hot. In addition to this, which could be considered as a part of the meal, there was also a side dish, dandelion, and a wild vegetable called bitter butterfly seed, which was bitter and pungent when mixed with large grains of black salt. After eating a few mouthfuls, one person couldn't stand it anymore. He spat out 2 pieces of coarse bran and complained loudly, "Don't spit it out. Eat it. It's better than starving. Didn't you hear the villagers say that this is the best thing they usually eat? If you spit it out, you'll starve yourself. Don't expect to eat our food. Tomorrow morning, you'll have to wake up and work for the village. When that time comes, you'll be hungry and weak. Let's see if they'll give you anything to eat at noon." When the other official heard this person complaining, he felt that the food in front of him was even more disgusting. He had no choice but to interrupt that person. He picked up a piece of side dish and stuffed it into his mouth. He chewed twice and then took a bite of the rice ball. He used all his strength to mix the 2 things together. He drank a mouthful of water and let out a long sigh. Everyone eat. "It's okay. My stomach feels much better. I'll work for 2 days and wait for County Magistrate Chung to send someone to bring the money and other food. Then I'll be able to get through it." The 2 assistant ministers are eating happily. Do we not know the hardships of the people? When everyone heard this, they turned their heads to look. Indeed, The assistant minister of the Ministry of Works and the Ministry of Rights were eating the same thing. Even the Minister of War was eating. It was said that his nephew wasn't an ordinary playboy. Since he wasn't picky, then he should eat too. Everyone gritted their teeth and started eating. The two assistant ministers were eating happily. The rice balls were also filled with fermented rice, chaff, and wild vegetables. The side dish in front of them was also the same. If one didn't look carefully, they wouldn't be able to tell the difference. However, if they opened it up and looked carefully, they would know what was different. The rice balls they were eating had shredded meat in the middle. The wild vegetables were soaked in oil and finely ground. The fermented rice was steamed before it was kneaded in. The side dish was salted differently. It looked black. It was fried meat sauce. Yes, it's not easy for the people to eat this kind of thing normally. We have to be diligent and thrifty. It's good to eat coarse grains occasionally. What do the two ministers think? Zhou Qiong used his tongue to pull out 2 pieces of meat and chewed them in his mouth. That's right. The assistant minister of the Ministry of Works and the Ministry of Rights spoke at the same time. They now knew that it wasn't easy for the people. They forced themselves to eat the food with added ingredients. As for the food without added ingredients, it was clear just by looking at the others. How could the people afford to eat meat and use oil? The other officials couldn't even speak. They could only nod and agree. After eating, they would go to bed early. They would start working tomorrow. They would help the villagers carry water and water the fields. The reward would be the food for these 2 days. My lords, perhaps you feel that the food is bad. It'll be better tomorrow. Tomorrow, I'll ask them to prepare some soup and 2 more dishes. Qin Village had been standing at the side waiting on them. At this time, he opened his mouth and said with an apologetic expression, Chapter 100. The next morning, when the sun had just risen, these officials were all woken up. Each of them had a bowl of rice porridge and the side dishes they had eaten yesterday. They had no choice but to help out. They couldn't do the slightly more technical work, and the villagers didn't expect them to do it either. They just let them carry water. There was a water bubble in the mountains about a li away from the village. There was water flowing down from the top, rainwater, and a small spring over there so that the villagers would not run out of water. There was no one in the village to plant rice, wheat, millet, or sorghum. There were also many vegetable fields. The price of vegetables was cheap, but they could be exchanged for money quickly. Once they were harvested, the strong laborers in the village would carry them out to sell. They took another route. Except for these officials who didn't know, no one would be stupid enough to go through so many mountains to exchange for money to buy salt, oil, and other things. Life was a bit difficult, but it wasn't to the point where they had to eat chaff all day. There was also a small mill in the village. They cultivated some land in the mountains and planted soybeans. Occasionally, they could eat soybeans. Most of the soybeans were taxed. The wasteland that was cultivated was known to County Magistrate Chung, but he didn't record it. This was to give the villagers some spare money. During the new year, County Magistrate Chung even brought Zhangjia Zhuangzi's things here. Therefore, the villagers followed his arrangements. The villagers didn't care how high the official was or what rank he was. Whoever was good to him, he would listen to that person. When other people weren't looking, he was very respectful to County Magistrate Chung. Last night, he even boiled water for him to take a bath. In the morning, before everyone ate, he first fried 2 brown eggs for County Magistrate Chung and sprinkled some sugar on top. County Magistrate Chung Lingxiang ate the 2 fried eggs in small bites for a full quarter of an hour. He felt that the taste was better than the signature dishes of the 3 restaurants in the county. When he finished eating, he called the others to wake up. It was time to work, and they still wanted him to bribe them? Dream on. There was no more food to be served. Whoever worked would eat. The work of the officials was arranged by the villagers. Some were far, some were near, some were light, some were heavy. When noon came, they would eat at the place where they were working. Someone would bring them food. The group of officials changed their clothes and began to grit their teeth and work. After walking for so long yesterday, their backs were sore and their legs were weak. However, they had no choice but to persevere. The 2 assistant ministers did not say anything. So how could it be their turn? The 2 bailiffs did not do this. They said that they were going back to get money and things, so they quietly left with Zhou Qiao and Zhou Shihu. Zhou Qiao had to go to Zhangjia Zhuangzi to discuss some things and express his gratitude. He would be back in 2 days. At that time, the Yamen would come back with him and bring some food. As for the money, the county government had already paid for the food the officials ate. No matter how bad it was still money. The people in the village did not lack this little bit of labor. If they could do it themselves, why would they need to find someone to do it for them? We're out. We're finally out. Zhou Qiao looked at the scenery outside the mountain and said comfortably, "Sir, your carriage will be here soon. The people who followed you have been persuaded to go back. They said that you need to rest here for 2 days. Someone will take care of you, so you don't have to worry that they will come to find you themselves." A bailiff from the county reported to Zhou Qiao, "Oh, that's good. And Ran is also there." Who's in charge in the county? Zhou Qiong finally understood. It was no wonder that when they came here, the county had specially found some drivers to persuade the people from the prefecture to go back. They were also worried that if the Yamen lacked a person in charge, there would be trouble. The bailiff replied respectfully, "Sir, don't worry. There are still the registrar and the county lieutenant in charge of the county. These are all trivial matters. Sanshui County has young Master Zhou to take care of it, so there won't be any big problems. Other than the registrar, Sir Zhao, who is unwilling to talk too much, the others are all very harmonious. No one will be a hindrance." Zhou Qiao was on the same side, so the bailiff said more. Zhou Qiao did not say anything this time. He was relieved. At this time, his carriage arrived. The bailiff rode the horse and led the way. The few people disappeared at the foot of the mountain. After the wind passed, the people in Zhuangzi were still planting the seedlings. Some of the seedlings that could not be used were simply thrown away. The main family finally did something to protect the farmers. The seedlings that were to be planted in 2 days would all be planted by the main family. When they heard that the seedlings that were planted 3 times in exchange for the seedlings that did not fall, the farmers were all very happy. The people in Zhuangzi were also checking the fields. They picked out the few seedlings that could not withstand the wind and moved a few seedlings from other densely populated areas. Then, they looked for the seedlings that were stronger and noted them down. When they were harvested in autumn, they would pick more seedlings. If the seedlings were still big, they would be kept as seeds. Zhang Xiaobao and Wang Wan rode out on their carriages. When they saw the farmers' happy expressions because of the rice seedlings, they were also happy. From time to time, they would respond to the people who greeted them with the expressions and tone of a child. "Father, why do I feel that the young master and young lady are the same as the rice seedlings when I look at them? They are older than other children of the same age. Their arms and legs are chubby and white. It is obvious that they can withstand the wind." After Zhang Xiaobao and Wang Wan left, a 10-year-old child next to the adults looked at the young master and young lady and said to his father, "Don't talk nonsense. How can the young master and young lady be compared to the rice seedlings? If I hear you say that again, I will give you a big slap on the face." The father scolded the child. He squatted down and looked at the small seedling that had blocked the wind for other seedlings. His eyes narrowed. "Oh, I won't say it again, but I still feel that way." The child agreed, but he did not change his mind. When Zhang Xiaobao and Wang Wan arrived at the small bridge, they stopped and looked at the site that was still under construction. They hoped that it would be finished soon. "Xiaobao, when Zhou Shihu's uncle comes, how many things do you want to discuss? We can't talk to him in person. Let's think about it first. We don't want to make any mistakes." Wang Wan got off the car and looked at the river that had completely stopped flowing. "There should be 3 things. First, we need to discuss the long-term plans for some business with Zhou Shihu. Second, we need to ask him to help bring some fame to the restaurant here. Third, we need to ask him about the rewards from the province when someone helped when the country was in a disaster. As for what he wants to talk about, I don't know. I think he wants to meet the 2 experts from Zhangjia Zhuangzi. Song Jinggong has mentioned more than once that County Magistrate Cheng wants to be apprenticed. I think some people are curious about this. Should we meet or not? If we meet, someone will pass the message back and forth. This is also a kind of meeting. I am afraid that he will ask the experts for their opinions and ask some sensitive questions." Zhang Xiaobao sat in the car and put his elbow on the handlebar in front of him. He pondered for a while and replied, "I think we should meet him and listen to his opinion. That way, we can understand him better." Wang Wan suggested, "Okay, we will ask someone to pass the message back and forth." Zhang Xiaobao agreed. At around 4 in the afternoon, a carriage pulled by 3 horses sped over from Tuqiao village. The carriage stirred up a cloud of dust along the way. The horses looked exhausted. When they entered the Gu family Shuangzi, the road became difficult to travel on. Only then did the carriage slow down. Zhou Shihu and his uncle were also very bumpy in the carriage. As soon as the carriage slowed down, they stopped. He and his uncle got off the carriage and walked over. When they first got on the carriage, he wanted to eat something. However, his uncle told him that it would take some time to get to the yamen from here, and some time to get to the other side. The two of them left the village in the morning and were delayed for some time. If they continued to walk slowly, they would only arrive at their destination at night. When they arrived at their destination at night, they naturally couldn't talk about it. They could only wait until the next day. They also had to see what time the 2 experts would wake up. If the 2 experts had the habit of sleeping in, they still had to wait. This would take an extra day. Therefore, the carriage was in a hurry all the way. Fortunately, there were many horses pulling the carriage. If it were ordinary horses, they would have died of exhaustion. After getting off the carriage, the 2 of them drank some water and let the carriage handle the horses. There was only one yamen runner to accompany them. The yamen runner also jumped off the horse and handed the horses to the carriage handle. The 3 of them slowly eased the uncomfortable feeling of the bumpy road while walking towards the Zhuangzi area of Zhang Xiaobao and Wang Zhuangzi. At present, they were still in the Gu family Zhuangzi area. As the Minister of Granary and Army, Zhou Xiu was in charge of the province's taxation and storage. Whether or not the local disaster would be reduced or exempted depended on the local disaster situation. Since they were here, they naturally had to take a good look. He let the yamen runner lead them to a road in the fields. After the 3 of them turned around 2 houses that blocked their line of sight, a large paddy field appeared in front of them. There were people busily working in it. From afar, it looked like they were picking things out of the field. Could it be that the river here has been cut off? Zhou Xiu had not inquired about the paddy field here, so he asked this question. It has been cut off. It was cut off a few days ago. The villages upstream have all diverted the water to their own fields. There is a small river here. This place is called Gujia village. The water used is all diverted from the Zhang Xiaobao and Wang Zhuangzi. When there was no drought, Zhang Xiaobao and Wang Zhuangzi stored water from 6 large ponds and dug 7 wells. Now, Zhang Xiaobao and Wang Zhuangzi have 2 ponds. Gujia village has 3 ponds of Zhuangzi. The yamen runner explained. When he mentioned the Zhuangzi of Zhang Xiaobao and Wang Zhuangzi, his tone was full of respect. It was not only because the Zhang Xiaobao and Wang Zhuangzi were powerful, but also because they took care of them. Usually, when they had something to eat, they would send it to the yamen and distribute it to everyone. Even now, they still had some wood ears that they could not bear to eat. His wife was pregnant, so every time she wanted to eat, she would fry some. Every time they ate, his wife would softly say that she had found a capable husband, that their child had a powerful father, that they could eat fresh cucumbers in the winter, and that they could eat wood ears from big families at home. For a man, what could be more glorious than this? A few days ago, Zhang Zhuangzi did not know who told him that his wife was pregnant, but young Master Song actually sent some tofu skins and chili sauce, as well as a small jar of aged vinegar and a packet of white sugar. He said that the tofu skins were soaked in water, cut into pieces, and mixed with white sugar and aged vinegar. It was sweet and sour. If she wanted to eat spicy food, she could add the chili sauce. When the other yamen runners looked at him enviously and saw his wife's smiling face when he returned home, which one of them did not feel proud? Not to mention saying good words or flattering him. Even if he saw someone kill someone, he would turn his head and pretend that he did not see it. Chapter 101. While the yamen runner was deep in thought, Zhou Qiong was also sighing at the power of Zhang Zhuangzi. This was great. Sanshui County would definitely be classified as a disaster area. If the average output of Sanshui County was reduced by 40%, all taxes would be exempted. If the average output of Sanshui County was reduced by 60%, the tax would also be exempted. If the average output of Sanshui County was reduced by 70%, they would not even have to serve as laborers. Looking at the situation, Sanshui County's output would be reduced by at least 50% this year. If County Magistrate Cheng and Zhou Qiong did something, they would not be able to collect taxes this year. However, they still had to serve as laborers. It was impossible for them to reduce the output by 70%. In that case, they would help to fix the river in front of them. After all, it was their own river. If others did not let them, they would fix it themselves. Now that they were free, they were free. Other places were really affected by disasters, but here, nothing happened. Gu family's paddy field in Zhuangzi was already like this. Zhang family and Wang family's paddy field should be better than this. Zhou Qiong admired them from the bottom of his heart. At this time, when he saw the things in the hands of the person who was picking things out of the paddy field, he was stunned. What's going on? Why did you pull out the seedlings in the paddy field? Zhou Qiong pointed at the seedlings in the hands of the farmer and asked. The Yamen runner did not know, so he called someone to ask. The farmer recognized the uniform of the Yamen runner, but did not know that Zhou Qiong was wearing civilian clothes. Seeing that Zhou Qiong was asking about this, he smiled and spread out his hands to show the three of them the seedlings in his hands. He said, "It's nothing. There was a strong wind yesterday and many seedlings were blown away. Some were broken. Some were picked out and thrown away. It's useless." Zhou Qiong looked at the farmer and frowned. He asked, "Then why are you not worried? Are you hoping to reduce the output and wait for the imperial court to exempt you from taxes? You are really too much. Why are you worrying about nothing? What does reducing the output have to do with you? The imperial court is your family." When the farmer heard this, he was unwilling to accept it. The Yamen runner coughed and gave the farmer a look. When the farmer saw the expression in the Yamen runner's eyes, he suddenly understood that this was an official who had come to visit in disguise. His previous arrogant appearance disappeared, and he cautiously replied, "Yes, I don't know. Everyone is actually not in a hurry. The main family has already gotten new rice seedlings from the Zhang family and Wang family in Zhuangzi. In another 2 days, we can replant without any delay. Even though it's a few days late, when the autumn harvest comes, there will be more grain than before. If it weren't for the main family not being able to afford so many seeds, I really want to uproot all the rice seedlings and wait for the new seedlings." "Oh, so the Miao family of the Zhang family and the Wang family are very good?" Zhou Qiong was even more puzzled. Usually, replanting was a last resort. He did not expect that the Gu family Zhuangzi farmers were actually looking forward to it. The farmer threw away the rice seedlings in his hand and pointed in the direction of the Zhang family and the Wang family. He stared and said, "It's not good, it's godly. Yesterday, the wind was so strong, but they all came over to help us plant the seedlings. Guess what happened? Those two family seedlings were like little calves. When the wind came, our seedlings fell one by one. They just shook their heads and passed by." "Really? Okay, you go to your work. I'll go take a look over there later." Zhou Qiong thought that the farmer was talking nonsense and did not continue to ask. He first went to take a look at the fields and found that there were indeed many fallen seedlings. The wind yesterday had made the disaster worse. After taking a look, he continued to walk forward with his nephew and the Yamen runner. After a while, they reached the small bridge and saw the people building the houses below. He turned around and glanced at the Yamen runner. The Yamen runner quickly said, "They are going to build a restaurant here. The three families of Zhuangzi will pay together. When the construction is finished, they can drink and eat on the water." Good plan. We can take advantage of the fact that there is no water now." Zhou Qiong responded and continued to walk forward. After crossing the small bridge and seeing the Wang family seedlings in the Zhuangzi fields, Zhou Qiong stopped again and pointed at the seedlings. "How is this possible? Why are the seedlings here so much thicker and taller than the ones over there? Could it be that they were planted in advance?" "Sir, it's impossible that they were planted in advance. Otherwise, they would have frozen to death. These seedlings can only be said to be planted well or chosen well. Sir, look, there aren't many footprints in the fields. This means that the seedlings were not blown over by yesterday's wind. The Yamen runner was not very clear about farming, but he knew that it was necessary to judge from certain aspects when handling cases. Zhou Qiong looked at the fields and frowned again. Why were they planted so casually? The Gu family Zhuangzi fields were lined up neatly. Could it be that the Zhang family and Wang family Zhuangzi farmers were trying to fool the main family? He did not believe that the main family of the Zhang family and Wang family in Zhuangzi would be so clumsy as to let people throw the seedlings into the fields so that they could catch someone who was deliberately causing trouble for the two families. Hey, you over there, what are you shouting for? Say it clearly, who is fooling the main family? You don't know anything, and you're just spouting nonsense. Zhou Qiong's voice was a little louder, so a few people over there heard him. They immediately walked over and criticized Zhou Qiong. You are? Zhou Qiong looked at them and asked. We are the farmers of the Zhang family and Wang family in Zhuangzi. We were just established to guard the fields. We are called the Vigorous Seedling Protection Team. I am the team leader, and these are the team members. You are slandering the farmers of the Zhang family and Wang family. This person walked in front of Zhou Qiong, puffed out his chest, pointed at himself, and pointed at the people beside him, and said proudly, The Yamen runner coughed again and said at the same time, This is an official from above. Oh, so that's how it is. An official can slander others as he pleases? The main family said that the Vigorous Seedling Protection Team is only responsible for the main family and does not care about the others. This is called military orders are like mountains. If you are an official, you can talk to the official. We will listen to the orders of the main family. This person did not care at all. Wang Wan had chosen him because of his character. She treated the Seedling Protection Team as a military unit. No matter what happened, they could not show weakness. Even if they caused trouble, the main family would take responsibility. If they took a step forward, even if it was a mountain of knives and a sea of fire, if they took a step back, how could they care about gold, silver, and treasures? This person understood Wang Wan's spirit and did not give in at all, even if he knew that the Yamen runner was standing beside him and that the person in front of him was not an ordinary person. Haha, so you are saying that the main family arranged for you to plant the fields like this? Zhou Qiong asked again. Of course. Do you think that we are all fools who don't know how to transplant seedlings? This is called throwing seedlings. The main family decided it. At first, we didn't believe it, but since the main family said so, we followed it. Now we know. When the wind blows, the seedling transplanter falls, but the seedling thrower is still standing here. The main family is amazing. This person was still so arrogant. He looked straight into Zhou Qiong's eyes and said word by word. Good, as expected of the Zhang family's manor. It lives up to its reputation. Even a mere manor owner has such integrity, not to mention the main family. What an impressive governance method, to actually be able to make the manor owner and the main family of one heart, not fearing power. Zhou Qiong was not angry. Instead, he felt excited. An army was just like that. A soldier who bowed to an outsider was not a soldier, but a coward. From the farmer, he knew the main family's way of doing things. It must be the two masters, otherwise, how could it be like this? Thinking of this, Zhou Qiong continued to ask, is it because the main family is too strict and has a way of governing people? Who knew that when these people heard this, their faces immediately darkened. The captain glared at the Yamen runner and said to Zhou Qiong, You are measuring the heart of a gentleman with the yardstick of a villain. Is it strict to build a house? Is it strict to make clothes? Is it strict to give lanterns? Here. This person told the benefits given by the main family from beginning to end, but he did not say how the main family grew cucumbers. Zhou Qiong was stunned. He had never seen such a farmer. It was too arrogant. He did not feel like a farmer. It was more like he was the master of some family. The Yamen runner at the side was anxious at this time. He was afraid that the captain would be unhappy, so he could only say, Do you know who this is? He is older than your county magistrate. Why don't you speak honestly? So what if he is older than the county magistrate? What do you mean by speaking honestly? I don't understand. I only know that if I weaken the prestige of the seedling protection team, I will not be able to face the main family when I go back. The main family has chosen me to be the captain. I will support the main family even if I die. This person's arrogance came up. He did not care who he was facing. The other farmers who followed him did not show any signs of backing down. It's okay. It's okay. Let's not talk about this. Please report that young Master Zhou and his nephew are here and want to see the main family. Zhou Qiong had nothing to say about this. The Zhang family and Wang family actually took care of the basic necessities of the farmers in Zhuangzi. It was no wonder that they worked so hard. When the captain heard this, he quickly bowed. So it is young Master Zhou and Lord Zhou. I did not know and offended you. I will report it now. When the time comes, I will personally ask for punishment. The main family has instructed that as long as young Master Zhou and Lord Zhou are here, we must not neglect them. I will go first. You all serve young Master Zhou and Lord Zhou well. After the captain finished speaking, he ran towards the main courtyard of Zhangzhe Zhuangzi. On the way, he almost fell. The others stood directly in the water and held out their hands to prevent Zhou Qiong and the others from accidentally falling into the water. Zhou Qiong, Zhou Shihu, and the Yamen runner were all stunned. This contrast was too big. When they mentioned their identity, the other party did not care at all. When they mentioned young Master Zhou and his nephew, they jumped into the water. If they lost face just now, the other party had given them enough face at this moment. At this time, Zhou Shihu was arrogant. He raised his head and said to his uncle, "Uncle, how is it?" "Good. Just from hearing your name, Xiaohu is promising. You are even better than me, a 6th-rank official. In the future, the Zhou family will rely on you." Zhou Qiong was happy. Using the identity of Zhou Shihu's uncle to receive such treatment, but using the identity of an official was another matter. This meant that the other party only recognized family and did not care about anything else. It was easy to deal with such people. Zhou Shihu was naturally modest. After waiting for a while, a lot of people came over. There were 2 older people in the lead. It was obvious that they were the old ancestors of the Zhang and Wang families. This was a big show of force. Zhou Qiong suddenly remembered that he came early and did not bring any gifts. He did not know what to do. It was already 4 p.m., and Zhou Qiong's recommendation had not reached 5,000 yet. "You are bullying me too much. Do you think I am afraid of you? I am not afraid. Tomorrow, I will let you bully me again." Chapter 102. Seeing so many people coming out of the Zhuangzi, Zhou Qiong felt troubled. If he had come down as an official, this scene would have been perfect. But this time, he was using his normal identity as Zhou Shihu's uncle. Compared to the 2 old masters of the 2 villages, he should be considered a junior. Before he could figure out what to do, the crowd came forward one after another to greet him. He could only follow suit. The crowd surrounded him and pulled him into the main courtyard of Zhangzhe Zhuangzi. In the main hall, the 2 old masters of Zhuangzi sat on the same level, occasionally praising each other. Only Zhang Xiaobao's father accompanied them and chatted. This was arranged by Zhang Xiaobao. If one wanted to take the imperial examination, it was not that simple. One needed to be famous and know people above them. For this matter, Zhang Xiaobao had discussed with Wang Wan. They wanted to copy some poems for his father and make him famous. But after considering that his father would not be so thick-skinned as to copy poems, they could only give up. Only then did they painstakingly try to establish a good relationship with him. Originally, they planned to look for the prime minister surnamed Yao during the disaster relief, but after considering that person would be dismissed in a few days, they had to find a new way. The people in the hall chatted until dinner time. Naturally, they made some arrangements. The women of the family left, and the children were not allowed to sit at the table. Zhang Xiaobao and Wang Wan took pomegranate to eat. They went out to train for a while, then went to bed. Zhou Qiong had chatted with Zhang Zhong's father for a long time. He was quite satisfied with the heads of the Zhang family, Zhang Yongqing. They had talent, but they were a bit inflexible. Although they were the heads of the family, the real person in charge of the family was actually from the Zhang Wang clan. They had the ability to take care of Zhuangzi in an orderly manner. This could be seen from the actions and words of the servants. During the meal, the servant girls who served the dishes were all so steady and did not deliberately try to please him. There was no fault to be found in their etiquette. Their eyes were clear, making people feel that they were sincere, and their responses were appropriate. They gave people the feeling that they were eating at home. Although they were servants of the manor, they would not look bad in some manners. After the meal, Zhou Qiong and the others were arranged to rest after a bumpy day. At this time, the sky was not dark yet. Zhou Qiong, who was originally tired, was lying on the couch, but couldn't fall asleep. He tossed and turned, and had no choice but to get up and take a look outside. After putting on her clothes and pushing open the door, the maidservant who had been waiting outside respectfully greeted her. When she heard that this lady wanted to walk around, she didn't stop her. She followed beside her and found someone who passed by to report to the steward. As soon as he arrived outside the main courtyard, Zhou Qiong saw two children using slingshots to hit a tree on the other side of the river. Beside the two children stood a servant girl wearing the master's servant clothes. Xiaoju, are these two children the Xiaobao and Cuckoo of Zhuangzi? Zhou Qiong asked the servant girl beside her. In reply to Darren, it is the little master and the little lady. Darren, look over there. The water from the well is different from other places. It tastes sweet. The servant girl Xiaoju replied. She pointed to a place in front of them and gently introduced it. She wanted to lead Zhou Qiong there. She was afraid that Zhou Qiong would be happy and want to say a few words to the little master and the little lady. If the two little ancestors revealed too much at once, Zhou Qiong would be suspicious. Oh, only this one is different? I have to taste it. Take me to see your little master and little lady first. Zhou Qiong followed the servant girl's words and looked in that direction. He was about to walk over when he suddenly realized that the servant girl didn't want him to meet the two children. Strange, he was actually led to another place by the servant girl. If it wasn't for the fact that he usually talked to people like this, he really would have been led there. How impressive. If it was someone else, they might have said, Darren, why don't you look elsewhere? That would be too obvious. However, the servant girl acted as if she didn't care. When Xiaoju heard this, she knew that her thoughts had been seen through. She didn't show any panic on her face and gently said, Darren, your body is precious. You don't have to see it personally. Let me invite the little master and little lady. There's no hurry. Let them play for a while. I like children the most. Xiaoju, let me ask you, what do you usually do in this courtyard? I saw 3 little stars embroidered on your clothes. Some people embroidered 1 or 2. Could it be that there's something else? Zhou Qiong was now interested in the servant girls. Those that were sent to serve him were definitely chosen carefully. Xiaoju smiled sweetly. In reply to Darren, I usually serve the old madam. Darren, your guess is very accurate. The servants in this courtyard are divided into 3 classes. 2 stars are first class, 1 star is second class. There are no third class. Then what about these 3 stars of yours? Special class. They are all favored by the old madam and madam. Xiaoju's smile didn't change. Then Xiaoju, you are not ordinary. Tell me, how do you become a special class? What is the class of the servant girl that serves your little master and little lady? Zhou Qiong was getting more and more curious about this Zhangjia Zhuangzi. In reply to Darren, a special class servant first has to serve in this courtyard for 10 years. I started helping out when I was 6 years old and have been doing this for 11 years. Other than that, I still have to help my family in Zhuangzi's previous generation. With these 2, I have to pick someone who is sensible and smart to learn how to read. After that, I have to choose someone who is knowledgeable and knows how to keep accounts. Xiaoju's voice was still very pleasant when she spoke. She didn't sound arrogant at all. Only the other people in the courtyard knew that there were only 3 servants like her in the entire courtyard. Not everyone had the opportunity to learn things. After the little master and little lady became sensible, they started to send a large number of servants to learn. Other than learning, they also had to work. To be able to reach such a standard, it was obvious how much effort they had put in. Zhou Qiong also knew that there weren't many servants in his residence who had the opportunity to learn how to read. People like Xiaoju were very rare. At that moment, he didn't continue to harp on this topic. He stopped Xiaoju from going to invite her little master and little lady and walked over. Zhang Xiaobao and Wang Wan were still playing. When Zhou Qiong's gaze landed on them, the two of them sensed it. People like them were especially sensitive to such things, especially Zhang Xiaobao. He had been captured, escaped, and besieged before, so he had long trained to be sensitive. However, they still pretended not to notice. It wasn't until Pomegranate saw someone coming over and reminded them that they stopped what they were doing. Wang Wan hid behind Zhang Xiaobao, while Wei Wei stuck her head out. The two of them blinked their big innocent eyes and looked at Zhou Qiong. "You are Xiaobao and you are Cuckoo? Come, let uncle take a good look at you." Zhou Qiong took a liking to the two children as soon as he saw them. He didn't wait for the servant girl to speak before he walked over, squatted down, and smiled at Zhang Xiaobao and Wang Wan as he spoke. "Hello, uncle." Zhang Xiaobao greeted him first, and Wang Wan also followed suit in a small voice. At this time, the two of them didn't speak as fluently as before, and their enunciation wasn't as clear. They had shy and curious expressions on their faces. Pomegranate and Xiaoju watched from the side and inwardly let out a sigh of relief. The little master and little lady were really not ordinary. Zhou Qiong didn't know that the two children were pretending to be children. When he heard the greetings, his smile grew wider. "Xiaobao and Cuckoo, tell uncle. How old are you?" 3 years old. Zhang Xiaobao raised 3 fingers in front of him and replied with wide eyes. Wang Wan revealed half of her body and also said, "I'm the same age as Xiaobao." Zhou Qiong knew that this was a false calculation. Otherwise, the two children would both be 1 year and 8 months old. Looking at the pair in front of him, he really felt like they were a golden couple. He asked again, "Do you know who I am?" "My surname is Zhou, and I have a nephew named Zhou Shihu." After saying this, he looked at the two children. Zhang Xiaobao and Wang Wan first revealed a puzzled and thoughtful expression. Then, they suddenly smiled and nodded vigorously. Zhang Xiaobao said first, "Be a high-ranking official." Wang Wan followed. "Good person." After Wang Wan finished speaking, her entire body flashed out from behind Zhang Xiaobao and stood there obediently, as if she was no longer afraid. When Zhou Qiong heard this, he was happy. The child didn't know anything and would do whatever the adults taught her. This showed that the people in the courtyard usually taught the child this way. Especially when he saw Wang Wan's fearless appearance, he felt very comfortable. The child's wishes were the wishes of the adults. When he was happy, he wanted to give a gift. His 2 hands searched his body and found that he didn't bring anything. He could only apologetically smile at the two children and say, "Uncle didn't bring anything for you this time. Next time, I'll make up for it." Zhang Xiaobao immediately handed over a slingshot at his waist. "This is for uncle." He and Wang Wan each held 2 slingshots. One was strong and the other was weak. When no one was looking, they would practice with the strong one. If someone was nearby, they would take the weak one. This time, they gave the weak one to Zhou Qiong. This time, Zhou Qiong didn't know whether to accept or not. If he didn't accept a gift from the child would be unhappy. If he accepted it, how could he return it? Although it was just a slingshot, it was a treasure to the child. If the child gave him a treasure, what would he do? Looking at Zhang Xiaobao's expectant gaze, Zhou Qiong reached out and took the slingshot. He thought that he must repay this favor in the future. He also needed to help find candidates for the imperial examinations. After taking the slingshot, Zhou Qiong said a few words to Zhang Xiaobao and Wang Wan. The two children didn't understand a lot of things. Occasionally, they would spit out a few words that weren't very clear. It was considered chatting, waiting for Zhou Qiong to decide to go back and rest. He was going to continue discussing matters with the people in Zhuangzi tomorrow and meet the 2 masters. Zhang Xiaobao and Wang Wan also went back to sleep. They still had to wake up at night to study. This time, Zhou Qiong could finally sleep. However, he had a long dream at night. When he woke up in the morning, he could still remember what happened in the dream. He dreamed that he encountered a problem in the future. No one could help him. In the end, 2 children appeared and told him what to do. He couldn't see what the 2 children looked like, but what they said shocked him. In the end, He saw the two children each holding a slingshot and gradually running away. Plague of locusts? Why is there a plague of locusts again? Brother Yongcheng, this is not something to be worried about. The locusts are the emperor. If there really is a plague of locusts, then it is a sign from the heavens. You raised so many chickens and ducks in Zhuangzi. Could it be that you already planned for this? As Zhou Qiong was speaking, he suddenly remembered that Zhangjia Zhuangzi had raised many chickens and ducks since last year. They also made a pond and dug a well. Could it be that the experts in Zhuangzi had already thought of this? Did they arrange it in advance? The more Zhou Qiong thought about it, the more fearful he felt. Not only was the expert powerful, but he was also afraid of the plague of locusts. If this was true, then this year's losses would not be enough. The east of Taihang Mountains and Hunan would be affected. When that time came, not to mention several times the price of the grain, it would not be enough. Brother Yongcheng, where did you hear all this from? Zhou Qiong had to ask. I didn't hear from anyone. It's all blind guesses. Why do you ask? Father Zhang tried his best to control himself and said with a smile, Oh, it's nothing. I was just casually asking. Brother Yongcheng, today's breakfast is very good. Seeing that Father Zhang was unwilling to talk about the expert behind this, Zhou Qiong could only suppress his guesses and pick up a piece of shallot to mix with tofu. Brother Miaoran is too polite. It's nothing good, just ordinary food. Xiaohu should be back soon, right? Brother Miaoran, eat first. It will be cold soon. Father Zhang picked up a fried red shrimp and stuffed it into his mouth. He actually did not like to eat shrimp, especially this kind of shrimp that had to be eaten even with the shell. However, Madame would prepare some for him every day. If he did not eat it, then Madame would go to his parents and complain. He did not know why his parents doted on Xiaoer so much. If Xiaoer complained, he was guaranteed to be scolded. He did not even dare to throw a tantrum. Xiaoer gave birth to a big fat boy who was like a demon or an immortal. When they wake up early in the morning, it will be better than usual. It's worth it. We don't care about such a small amount of money, especially the maids. Usually, they don't dare to wake up at night. Now that there are always people around, there will be less trouble. Servants are also people. Okay, when I go back, I will do the same. No wonder your Zhuangzi feels different from other places. All the servants are working hard. Brother Yongqing, this is all your wife's idea, right? Zhou Shihu was indeed touched. When he thought of how serious the servants were when they were working, he thought that the courtyard was strict. Now, he understood that it was because they were good to the servants. It seemed simple, but in fact it was not easy. What else could Father Zhang say? He couldn't betray his own child. He nodded, admitting to this matter. The money was earned by his son and daughter-in-law. It was not under his control at all. He had been learning things all day. The people in the courtyard were more respectful to his son and daughter-in-law than to him. Seeing that Father Zhang admitted to it, the three of them began to eat again. Zhou Shihu drank a bowl of soy milk and moved the slightly cold tofu putting in front of him. Then, he looked at the mantus and steamed buns that he couldn't finish and asked, Uncle Zhang, are we really going to fry these leftovers for the servants to eat? Won't it be fine to heat them up? Of course it's fine to heat them up. Many people don't even need to heat them up. However, there are usually a lot of things to do in the afternoon. In addition to the work in the morning, the servants are tired and need to take care of themselves. Fry them in oil. One has a lot of oil, and the other has a good taste, so they can eat more. Let them eat more, let them recuperate, and do more work. It's easy to tire them out and then buy more people, but it's hard to guarantee their loyalty. These people in the courtyard, if the master tells them some secret things, even if you catch them and skin them alive, they won't reveal the secret. So what if you treat them a little better? Father Zhang had deep feelings about this matter. Sometimes, when he met cherries, pomegranate, Xiaohong, Huzi, and Erniu, and wanted to ask how his son was, these people didn't say a word. They would be whipped to death. Especially Erniu, who had served by his side in the past. When asked anxiously, he would say, "Master, even if you beat me to death, I won't say a word. The young master has ordered me to keep my mouth shut." At that time, Father Zhang was jealous that his son could control the servants like this. According to Madame, when she asked Erniu also answered in the same way. Such a clever person dared to resist the master's questioning. Father Zhang was just a servant who took care of the surroundings. He answered whatever Madame asked. There was no comparison. Of course, Father Zhang didn't know that there was a kind of power called faith. Those who followed Zhang Xiaobao and Wang Wan had long regarded them as gods. Even if Wang Wan made a bomb, they would carry it with them and rush into the enemy to detonate it. Zhou Qiong didn't know that Father Zhang would have so many ideas in such a short time. Seeing that the porridge was getting cold, he quickly drank 2 mouthfuls. Just as he was about to speak, suddenly there was a sound of disorderly footsteps outside. "Brother Yongqing, this is?" Zhou Qiong asked in confusion. Logically speaking, since the servants in the courtyard were so well behaved, they shouldn't be so flustered. Father Zhang also didn't know what happened. He turned his head to look at the door, waiting for someone to come and explain. After a while, a person appeared at the door and said to him, "Master, just a quarter of an hour ago, Zhang Qing's cow accidentally rolled down from the mountain. Zhang Qing's 7-year-old child also fell down. The courtyard has already sent 2 doctors. It is estimated that they will arrive in a quarter of an hour. There are other people who will also go to help." "Got it. Quickly go and settle it. Tell people to bring all the necessary things. Don't delay." When Father Zhang heard this, he also became anxious. After all, it was a human life. It didn't matter if the cow died. If they couldn't beat it, they just had to report it to the government. But if something happened to the child, it would be difficult to handle. If he judged others, he didn't even dare to think about it if his son fell down. The servant responded and left. Zhou Qiong was curious again. "Brother Yongqing, where did that person fall down? Where else could it be? There is only one place on Zhuangzi that is dangerous. In a while, I had people dig that place flat. It rained, and a lot of mud and stones slid down the mountain, making that place steep. If I had known that this would happen, I would have had people flatten it. It's all because of the busy spring season." Father Zhang's face didn't look good. He suppressed his anxiety and said, "Oh, then how far is that place from here?" Zhou Qiong asked again. "Oh, I know why Brother Miaron wants to know. The people there found it too late. Otherwise, they would have sent people out long ago. There are 2 doctors on Zhuangzi. One is in charge of the animals, and the other is in charge of the people. They will go out when there is an illness. Brother Miaron, when you came, you must have seen some shelves built on Zhuangzi, right?" "Yes, I saw it. Is it related to this?" "The shelves are connected to some ropes made of fine silk. Each of the Zhang family and the Wang family has 2 ropes. One is a bell, and the other is connected to the bamboo tubes on both sides. When there is an emergency, they use those ropes to call for help. Usually, in less than 10 breaths, they will know and immediately respond." When Father Zhang mentioned those things, he raised his head. A proud expression appeared on his face. He was qualified to be like this. Last time, Zhang Xiaoshu's family only took a quarter of an hour from the time the accident happened to them. Who could compare with this speed? Zhou Qiong was also dumbfounded. He did see those shelves, but he didn't expect that they were built by the main family on Zhuangzi for the villagers to call for help. When something happened on Zhuangzi, the people here were sent out immediately. His manner was even worse than Zhuangzi's. If something happened on Zhuangzi, it would take an hour for the people farther away to send the news. "Brother Yongqing, can you take us to have a look?" The more Zhou Qiong thought about it, the more incredulous he felt. He couldn't hold back his thoughts and suggested, "Okay, then let's go and have a look. I wonder how Zhang Qing's child is doing? Don't let anything happen to him. He is a treasure in his family." Father Zhang was no longer in the mood to eat. He agreed, got up, and walked outside. Zhou Shihu and his nephew also put down their chopsticks and followed behind Father Zhang. They wanted to see if this matter was true or not. Seeing was believing. When the three of them arrived at the place by car, there was a child crying there. There was also an adult scolding the child for being careless. If the child wasn't injured, the adult would have gone over and hit him. Chapter 106. Well, I don't know if Brother Yongqing knows more. Oh, I don't know. It's just a guess. Just a guess. At this moment, Zhou Qiong had already confirmed that there was indeed an expert in the Zhang family's farmstead. Otherwise, it would be impossible for the two farmsteads to be in such a state. However, that expert did not seem to be willing to meet with them. He only sent a servant over to inform them. In order to obtain more information, he could only continue to speak to Father Zhang, hoping to find out what the imperial court was doing through him. If it wasn't for the fact that he had come here with this intention and had seen many unbelievable things, he definitely wouldn't have believed it so easily. Just as he asked, the master of the Zhang family happened to send someone to tell the master of the Zhang family what he wanted to know. This was too much of a coincidence. Zhou Qiong would rather believe that it was arranged deliberately than think that it was a coincidence. Others might not understand the meaning of this, but he understood. Don't have anything to do with a woman. It was not a good sign. What was it? It was obviously a Yao character. She mentioned a woman and then a princess. This meant that this person's status was not low. Who else was a woman? Besides Wu Manyang, there was only Princess Taiping. Both of them were important figures. Then the person they were talking about must be an important figure. At this time, if not the emperor, who else was important? Prime Minister Yu. What was his surname? His surname was Yao. A woman. It was not a good sign. Together, it was the Prime Minister. Could it be that they were telling him that the Prime Minister might not make it and that he should stay away? Zhou Qiong was able to figure this out in a short amount of time. He wanted to know more about this, so he continued to ask. Father Zhang didn't even understand what Yu said just now. He just said the original words. How could he say anything else? For a moment, he didn't know how to answer. Zhou Qiong naturally knew that Father Zhang didn't say anything at all. His purpose was to get someone to go to the place where the two masters were and talk to them. However, before he could continue to think of a way to get Father Zhang to ask, Yu, who had just come over, came over again. He also whispered a few words into Father Zhang's ear. After Yu left, Father Zhang calmed down a little and said to Zhou Qiong, Brother Miao Ran, there's no need to rush to know some things. As the saying goes, even if MT-Tai collapses in front of you, your expression won't change. Brother Yongqing is right, that should be the case. How could Zhou Qiong have the leisure to do that at this moment? Whether or not Mount Tai was Mount Tai did not matter to him. What he wanted to know now was who his future backer would be. No matter how tall or majestic Mount Tai was, it could not compare to a good backer. That's right. It's great that Brother Miaoran can think this way. As the saying goes, one is hot and one is warm in Lingnan. If one were to ask who was sitting in the East Ridge, there would be a cover and a wood king by the side. As long as Brother Miaoran remembers this, it's fine. Father Zhang repeated what Yu had just said without changing a single word. What's the saying? Zhou Qiong didn't understand. He sat there and muttered a few words. Then, he stopped talking and frowned. Beside him, Zhou Shihu didn't dare to disturb him. He smiled at Father Zhang and waited there. Zhou Qiong felt like his head was going to explode. He really couldn't understand the meaning of those 4 sentences. If it was someone else who said those words, he wouldn't care. However, it was the servant who said those words. Needless to say, that servant was related to the expert. The expert knew what he was thinking. Just now, he had already reminded her that she could not rely on a certain person. Now, he said these words again. That was exactly what she wanted to know, which was who she could rely on. In Lingnan, When many people heard this, they would think of the line between the Qinling Mountains and the Huai River. In winter, the north would freeze, while the other side would be as warm as spring. But if he really thought about it this way, it seemed a little wrong. Then it should be one cold and one warm in Lingnan, not one hot and one warm, warm and hot. It was definitely impossible for the Qinling Mountains and the Huai River. So what kind of mountains were there? Thinking about it again, there was no need to rush. It was so far away. Could it be that the mountain range was further away? What kind of mountain range was the mountain range further away? Far. Mountain range Lingnan? Wasn't it far away? It would take at least half a year to get there from here. Could it be that someone would come from there? Otherwise, why would it be closer? Who was there? Yes, who could it be? If you ask who was sitting in the Dongling Mountains, Dongling, Lingnan Road, East, Guangzhou, who was there in Guangzhou? There was a cover, a wood, and a king in Guangzhou. There was a wood and a king, the governor of Guangzhou, Songjing? Could it be him? Yes, a cover. Wasn't it just the stroke above? Adding a king, could it be that he would rise in the future? Zhou Qiong tried hard to think and finally thought of a person, but he couldn't be sure. It was too hard to believe. A person so far away, could it be that he would enter the imperial court in the future? Thinking of this, he finally raised his head again and opened his mouth to speak to Father Zhang. Before he could speak, Father Zhang opened his mouth and said, "Everything has its own way is like a dream, an illusion, a bubble, and a shadow. It's like dew and lightning. You should see it as it is. Brother Miaoran, since your name is Miaoran, I believe you must know this." When Father Zhang said it, he felt that it was not reliable. It was a mess, and he didn't explain it clearly. How could people guess it? But he had to say it. When Zhou Qiong heard this, he had a different feeling. It seemed that the two masters had even calculated his reaction. They obviously didn't want to say too much to him, so they used a Buddhist saying to answer him. Yes, they had already told him a lot, so he couldn't continue to ask. Could it be that he had to ask them to tell him the details in front of them? If that was the case, then the masters were not hidden masters, but aides. It was impossible for ordinary people to get these words in their lifetime. He couldn't be too greedy. Thinking of this, Zhou Qiong finally smiled and said to Father Zhang, "Brother Yongcheng, you're right. I understand these words and won't ask anything else." Sigh. County Magistrate Cheng is a blessed man. If possible, I would rather change places with him. But no matter how blessed County Magistrate Cheng is, he can't compare to Brother Yongcheng. After saying this, Zhou Qiong cupped his hands at Father Zhang with an envious expression. Father Zhang was completely dumbfounded. He didn't understand how Zhou Qiong could think of something that he didn't expect after he learned a few words from Erniu. He even envied him. Then why was County Magistrate Cheng also blessed? Erniu's words were said by his wife, but Father Zhang knew that it must be said by his son and future daughter-in-law. The poem was written in a slightly different style, but the rhyme was not bad. Could it be that Zhou Qiong envied him for having a good son? This was not bad. His son and daughter-in-law were not ordinary. They were immortals. Not to mention other things, they had the ability to make money. When they were free, they would come up with a way to make money. They even made a lot of snacks for their family. Everything tasted good. The most important thing was that they were good at business and farming. The rice seedlings in Zhuangzi and the Gu family were all blown away by the wind. But in their own family, it was unknown how the two little guys played with it. They actually stood there motionless. If they took the seeds and played with them for a few days, the seedlings would be different. In addition to these, there was also the good thing about learning. After explaining it once and asking the two children a few questions, even if they learned it, not only would they be able to answer it in the examination, they would also be able to comprehend it by analogy. However, these things were only known by the people in the inner courtyard. Others didn't know. So how did Zhou Qiong know? Brother Yongcheng, what are you thinking about? Are you still not satisfied? With those two looking after you, Yongcheng can rest assured in the next imperial examination. When the time comes, I will help you. It will be the icing on the cake. Before Father Zhang could figure it out, Zhou Qiong called out to him. Only then did Father Zhang come back to his senses. He smiled and said, "Thank you, Brother Miaoran, for your kind words. If I really become an official, I will have to thank you properly." You don't have to thank me. Just thank the two masters behind you. Brother Yongqing may not know, but County Magistrate Chung is coming to acknowledge you as his teacher. With those two masters around, what else do you have to worry about? Zhou Qiong didn't know what Father Zhang was thinking, so he continued to speak. Mr. Zhang didn't know whether to laugh or cry. What kind of expert was this? Wasn't it his son and daughter-in-law? With just a few words, a sixth-rank official actually became like this. He didn't know what the two children had done to make the county magistrate want to be apprenticed to a master. He wondered if this Sitsong Army adjunct Zhou would still say this after he knew what this expert looked like. Father Zhang naturally wouldn't sell his son out. He pretended not to know and said, "What masters? Brother Miaoran, you must be joking. They are all ordinary people." Yes, ordinary people. They are all ordinary people. I was wrong. There are no masters. Ordinary people are good. When the restaurant is built, I will come again. I hope to see ordinary people. I will be satisfied with just one meeting. Zhou Qiong misunderstood and thought that Father Zhang was deliberately hiding something and didn't want to say it out loud. He was afraid of offending the masters, so he also echoed. After saying these words, he began to talk about other things with Father Zhang. He said whatever he could think of. It didn't matter whether it was right or wrong in the end. As long as he said it, it was fine. After flattering each other, the day passed. Of course, there was good wine and good food for lunch and dinner. Early the next morning, Zhou Qiong couldn't wait to leave. He wanted to go back and figure out what happened in the mountain village. The two families sent each other to the small bridge. After greeting each other, Zhou Qiong went back on his way. The people here also went back home. Everyone was busy with their own things. Only Father Zhang wanted to read a book. When he sat down in the study, he couldn't continue reading. He held the book in his hand. The more he read, the more confused he became. In the end, he reluctantly put it down and opened the window. Seeing the warm red sun outside, he thought of something. Someone, call Xiaobao and Cuckoo, get some snacks and send them to the study. Father Zhang couldn't control himself. He had to ask someone to call the two children and get some food. When the time came, he would be able to coax the two little guys. Chapter 107. Zhang Xiaobao and Wang Wan were called over. They left quickly and came back quickly. Zhang Xiaobao's father asked a few questions, and they answered selectively. They did not say anything substantial, mainly because Zhang Xiaobao was afraid that his father would be thinking about other things all day long and would not have the energy to study. Even if they wanted to find someone for the imperial examination, they would need to have the ability and knowledge to do so. The snacks were also brought back. Those were the snacks that the two of them made themselves. Usually, they would give some to the people in the courtyard. We've made a profit. This year, the whole county is considered to be a disaster, so the production will be reduced by half. We don't have to pay taxes, and we don't have to take out extra silk. We only need to contribute some labor. It's only a few days. Discuss with the Gu family and Zhuangzi to let the county magistrate fix our river. We can use our own people to fix things in our own place. We can even get some construction funds and widen the river. We won't be able to take over the fertile land. Let's go and eat the beef marrow. It's fresh. Zhang Xiaobao felt that he had done a big favor for the family and was in a good mood. As he spoke, he skipped like a child towards the kitchen. Wang Wan stood there in a daze for 2 seconds before running over as well. Don't think about the construction fees anymore. Fix the river properly. What if there's another flood tomorrow? We can't fool around with our own place. The money allocated might not be that much anyway. If we peel it off layer by layer, we won't have much left. The two discussed how much money they could allocate this time. How much money could County Magistrate Chung put here, and what would happen to the river? They went to the kitchen one after another. There were already people taking out the bone marrow of a few bones and putting it on a plate for the two little ancestors to eat. Since the ox had fallen to its death, they immediately sent someone to check on it. Chi Li and Senior Feng came together. When they saw the Yamen runners and the ox, they were sure that the ox had indeed fallen to its death. One of them took 2 caddies of beef from the farm and left happily. When the bailiff left, he also took the ox head and half a fan of beef. When he returned, he could cook some beef soup to drink. Knowing that his wife was pregnant, he also gave him half a hoof of ox tendon. He told him to take it back to eat. When he felt disgusted, he would feel better after chewing. The bailiff's eyes were red when he received the items. Before he left a message, saying that if there was any trouble, he would bring his brothers over to help. In the future, if the cow fell to its death, he would come over to prove it. Even if he accidentally fell on his neck with a knife, it would still count. The rest of the meat was taken back to the main courtyard and sent to the Wang family. The people in the inner courtyard had a meal of beef stewed with radishes. There wasn't much meat, but there was enough radishes. The beef bones were kept by Zhang Xiaobao and Wang Wan. The rest of the meat was frozen and occasionally cooked for the family. Young master, do you think this bone marrow is enough? When the people in the kitchen saw that the two little ancestors had come, they put away all the knives and watched the stove. A person in charge of the kitchen brought a plate to Zhang Xiaobao and Wang Wan and asked respectfully. Zhang Xiaobao looked at the plate. There were 6 strips of bone marrow of different lengths and thicknesses. He nodded and said, "Well, okay. It's enough. It's enough for Cuckoo and me. It's just cooked, right? Make more, steam it in the pot, mix it with the stock, add less salt, some chopped green onions and coriander, and send it to my family in the main house of the Wang family." Oh, remember not to add coriander in one bowl. My grandma doesn't like it. Cut some ginger foam. Grandma likes to eat that. The person in charge of the kitchen immediately went to arrange it. At the same time, he sighed. His grandson was 2 years old, but he always pestered the family for this and that. He had never said that he would let the family taste what he wanted. Looking at the young master and the young lady, they would think of the family when they had something good. They even remembered the old lady's favorite food. They couldn't compare with them. When Zhang Xiaobao and Wang Wan ate the bone marrow at noon and took a nap, Zhou Qiong had already arrived at the Qin family's village. He came back in a hurry. He was afraid that those people would find that he had left, and it would take a lot of effort to explain. Following the Yamen runners waiting outside the mountain, when they entered the village, County Magistrate Cheng immediately greeted them. He arranged a place to rest and asked someone to send food. The officials who were still working here were all exhausted. There was no part of their bodies that didn't ache. They weren't picky when they were eating last night. They ate whatever was given to them. When they slept last night, they were scattered among their families. Until now, they still didn't know that there was one less person working here. The 2 assistant ministers were very relaxed. They wandered around together and occasionally gave advice to the villagers on what to plant. Especially the assistant minister of the Ministry of Works, he helped the villagers draw a picture of a tub and asked them to follow it. In the future, it would be more convenient to get water from the tub. Naturally, the food they ate was better. At noon today, they actually ate 2 meat dishes, 1 vegetable dish, and a bowl of soup. They hadn't seen the army from the prefecture for more than a day. They even asked, but the answer they got was that they were assigned to other things. When Zhou Qiong came back this time, he first talked to County Magistrate Cheng. The Yamen runners were not in a hurry to show up. They let the officials do more work and tire themselves out so that it would save them some trouble. The Yamen runners understood that the officials were tired after walking for such a long time. If they had a good rest the next day, they might recover a lot. However, after working for another day, they would definitely be sore and painful. If they worked for a few more days, they might get used to it. However, if they worked for another day and walked back the next day, the feeling was obvious. At that time, they could only be fed by others and couldn't even lift their arms. Lord Zhou, have you finished your discussion this time? County Magistrate Cheng asked Zhou Qiong to sit down. He poured the warm wine and pushed the wine bowl in front of Zhou Qiong. Yes, there are 2 small things. One is about Xiaohu's business. I don't care about this. Xiaohu just has to do it. The other is that they want to build a restaurant on the river. When there is no water, we can go and take a look and help out. For the last thing, I need County Magistrate Cheng's help. Zhou Qiong was indeed tired and thirsty. After saying these words, he raised the bowl and drank it. He let out a long breath and felt comfortable. County Magistrate Cheng helped to pour the wine again and asked, "What do you want me to help with? Is it about the disaster this year? This is a small matter. Our county is indeed suffering. It's not about this. I want you to go with them in summer or autumn. Maybe to the east of Taihang Mountain or to the south of Hunan. The drought in those two places is worse than here. There may also be a locust plague. Zhangjia Zhuangzi has prepared a lot of food and some chickens and ducks are waiting to be sent to eat the locusts. In this way, the Baihu's food will be saved. When the time comes, you will get a medal, and so will I. You have won a lot of praise for the two auspicious signs, the curved plow, and your actions during the new year. However, it's still not enough to arrange a good position. If you go with them this time, your political achievements will be enough. Maybe you will get a higher rank than me. Zhou Qiong said enviously. Now he was helping County Magistrate Cheng. When the time came, Zhangjia Zhuangzi's people would also help him. In fact, they had done him a big favor last night. It turned out that the position of Prime Minister was changed. If it was someone else who said this, he would not believe it. However, he had to remember this in his heart when he saw what the two masters had done. County Magistrate Cheng understood as soon as he heard this. So this was the plan of the other side. No wonder they asked him to help delay until the summer and autumn season. This was a great contribution. No matter who took out the grain, as long as it was in Sanshui County and he could show up, he would be counted in. Thank you for telling me, Mr. Zhou. I wonder who will be sent to take care of this matter this time. At that time, if I can say a few words, my side will be more secure. I wonder what those two experts look like. County Magistrate Cheng was envious of Zhou Qiong now. It was an opportunity for him to meet the two masters. Zhou Qiong shook his head helplessly. I don't see them either. The two masters are really good. Before I said I wanted to meet them, they had already sent someone to solve my doubts during the meal. They are really good at predicting. I can't tell you more. Just remember, during summer and autumn, don't get too close to the right prime minister. Just be a good official. So, that Yao is going to retire? County Magistrate Cheng was shocked. He could not understand. Now that the person could still be trusted by the higher-ups, why would he come down? He had doubts in his heart. Suddenly, he remembered that the two masters of Zhangjia Zhuangzi did not tell him. They told Zhou Qiong and had nothing to do with him. In this case, they felt that his position was too low, and there was no need for him to know about this matter. Maybe it was really like this, so he had to be careful. When County Magistrate Cheng wanted to ask some more questions, he found that Zhou Qiong had already started eating. He had to suppress the doubts in his heart and planned to find a way to ask when he accompanied the disaster relief. The two chatted for a while. After the meal, Zhou Qiong directly lay down to rest. County Magistrate Cheng sensibly left. When it was almost night time, he found Village Chief Qin and whispered a few words in his ear. The officials who had worked for 2 days dragged their tired bodies back to eat when they were called together. Suddenly, they found that the food on the table had changed. It was no longer the rice balls that were hard to swallow, but a small vegetable box. No wonder it smelled so good just now. There were also more dishes. The bitter and astringent pickles were gone and replaced with 3 dishes. Mushroom fried meat, egg fried with shallots, steamed radish dipped in sauce, and a bowl of wild vegetable soup with a lot of oil floating on it. This was not a bitter wild vegetable, but a cat's ear, also known as qingming grass. The soup made by the small vegetable box and the cat's ear was very fresh and tender. All the officials sat there, but did not dare to move their chopsticks. They were afraid that these people did not have good intentions. At this time, a yamen runner appeared in front of everyone and explained, "Lords, I'm back. Tomorrow morning, you don't have to work and can enjoy the beauty of the mountains and rivers here. Last time, I promised that as long as a place entered the top 5 on the classification list, I would add 4 more chapters. Today, I reached the top 5, so I would add 4 more chapters. Thank you. To be honest, I have not missed a single day." Chapter 108. When the officials saw the bailiff and heard his words, they were so moved that they almost cried. It was not easy. They finally got through it. When they looked at the food in front of them, they felt that this food should be in heaven and not in the mortal world. When they took a bite, it was so delicious. Some of the officials were so moved by the spicy taste of the vegetables that they cried. They looked at the bailiff who was waiting for orders. It was as if they had seen their parents. The bailiff saw that everyone's expressions were a little strange and their emotions were not so stable. He had no choice but to ask again, "My lords, what should we do tomorrow? Should we go on a boat or enjoy the scenery?" I just want to ask, can we go back? An official ate 2 boxes of vegetables in a row and choked while speaking. He hurriedly drank a mouthful of soup and stood there with his neck straightened. After a while, he let out a long breath and looked at the bailiff, eagerly waiting for a reply. "What? Go back? This? Little brother, don't worry. When we go back, oh no, we will pay for the meal this time. 10 taels of silver per person? No, 20 taels of silver. Little brother, you have worked hard, so naturally, you will not be left out." When another person heard the bailiff's question, he opened his mouth and said a lot of words. He was really afraid. If he stayed any longer, he might lose his life in the village. "That's not necessary. What I mean is that you really don't want to have fun here. Under the night sky, the crescent moon is in the sky, the water is clear, and the breeze is gentle. My lords, please take your time and think of more interesting things." The bailiff did not expect that his words would cause such a big reaction. All the officials put down their chopsticks and listened attentively. "Thank you, little brother, for your kindness. Let's wait for the others to come. We have to go back and see the disaster situation in the county. The people's affairs are more important." The official who spoke at the beginning continued. He was really scared. How could he think of interesting things? In this place, the first thing that came to mind was how he carried the water. Not to mention the water in the buckets. The wooden buckets were not light at all. He quickly found an excuse and said that he wanted to go back to the county to check on the situation. In fact, he wanted to hide as far away as possible and never come back to this place in his next life. The bailiff was still hesitating. The official who said that he would pay also took over and said, "This meal costs 30 taels of silver. When the time comes, all the brothers in the county will each pay 5 taels of silver. I will pay when I get back." With him taking the lead, the other officials also understood that the money was too little. One by one, they followed suit. Some even wanted to write down a written agreement on the spot. As a result, County Magistrate Chung was alarmed. He came here with the 2 assistant ministers. When he heard that the officials were willing to spend more money to pay for the meal, he smiled and said, "Your Excellencies, I know that you are not only willing to pay for a few meals, but also to help Sanshui County survive the drought. This time, I thank you on behalf of the people of Sanshui County." With these words and the presence of the 2 assistant ministers, the officials did not dare to go back on their words. As long as County Magistrate Chung wrote a memorial, it would not be as simple as breaking the rules and coming out to play. One by one, they calculated how much money they would have to pay. They did not know, but they regretted it once they calculated, especially the one who spoke first. At this time, he was being stared at by the others. It was fine to pay 30 taels of silver for the meal. After all, it was already in their stomachs. But what about 5 taels of silver for each bailiff? How many bailiffs were there in Sanshui County? With the presence of the 2 superiors, these officials could only agree once more. Then, they began to eat the food on the table with all their might, hating that they could not eat all the money back. They also drank bowl after bowl of soup. County Magistrate Chung did not disturb them. He turned around and left to eat his own food. His food was better, especially the small root vegetable box. Other people's boxes might contain some garlic, but his was full of tender small root vegetables. Some villagers even specially marinated some good small root vegetables with salt. When eaten, it could be said to be fresh and delicious. While these people were eating, Zhang Xiaobao and Wang Wan were also eating. They seemed to have thought of the same thing. They also made a small root vegetable box and cat ear soup. The only difference was that other people's small root vegetable box only had small root vegetables and eggs, but Zhang Xiaobao and Wang Wan had shrimp meat in their soup. 3-inch-long prawns were used in some restaurants to cook whole prawns. Zhang Xiaobao and Wang Wan had the prawns chopped up and wrapped in a box. The small root cabbage also needed to be soaked in water for a while, so that it wouldn't be as spicy. Picking out the tender small root cabbage wouldn't cause any irritation. Delicious, really delicious. The small root vegetables and cat ear soup taste so good together, especially the spicy taste of the small root vegetables in the mouth. When you drink a mouthful of the soup, the cat ears are actually really fluffy. When you eat it, there is an earthy taste in the mouth and a little numb in the tongue. I have never eaten it before. Wang Wan took a bite of the small box specially made for her and Zhang Xiaobao. After drinking a mouthful of soup, she squinted her long eyelashes and said happily, "Yes, I always ate it when I was young." There were rivers and mountains behind the orphanage. Grandpa took me there to dig for cat ears and pick small root vegetables. We could also meet the mountain red in the mountains. When we came back, we would cook it. Usually, it was made into boxes. There were less white flour and more corn flour. Then we would drink cat ear soup. Every time I ate it, I felt the happiest time. At that time, we were poor. Few people gave us money. When they came, they would only give us some fruit. My brothers, sisters, brothers, and sisters had to wear clothes. We thought that only the poor would eat it. Later, when we grew up, we found that it was actually more expensive than normal food. Don't you think it's funny? When I finally went there, I heard that a kilogram of tender small root vegetables cost 14 yuan, and meat was only 9 yuan. At that time, if someone was willing to exchange, we were willing to exchange a kilogram of small root vegetables for a kilogram of meat. Have you seen my picture when I was young? Even a skinny monkey would grin when he saw it. Eat it. What you eat is not that kind. There are also shrimps in it. Eat them all. Don't waste them. Later on, when I was rich, I didn't care if the food was more expensive, but I never threw anything. Zhang Xiaobao took a bite of the box and whimpered. His face was full of nostalgia. Wang Wan didn't know if she should be envious or sad. She drank a mouthful of soup and said, "Then why don't you go to the river to catch fish and shrimps? The children here know how to do that." Who said that we didn't catch enough? We caught them and sold them for money. The things in the river were not valuable. The shrimps were only an inch long, and the fish were only 2 or 3 inches long. Grandpa Dean couldn't sell them for much. Later on, it was polluted by the starch factory. Even those things couldn't be obtained. Everyone went to the mountains to dig for dandelions, which are considered a kind of medicinal material. There were also various kinds of wormwood, all of which were edible. There was also a plant known as the windbreak plant, which was sold well. It was especially useful for treating allergies, and it was faster than any medicine. As long as the water was boiled, the pimples on the body would disappear in less than a minute after rubbing them with the water. At that time, the older children did most of the work. I was still young, so I followed behind and helped to search for things. When I was 5 years old, a 9-year-old brother was bitten by a snake because he went to the mountains to dig for things. We called the snake turf. It wasn't very poisonous. It would definitely not destroy the blood molecules in a few minutes or even seconds. Grandpa Dean carried him out to get the serum. At that time, the serum was not expensive. The hospital was developing well. Not to mention 1 bite, even 10 bites would be enough. As long as he was sent to the hospital for the injection, he would be fine. Moreover, the treatment of the children in the orphanage was not that expensive. They could even give the treatment for free. But at that time, there was a medical official from the province. Grandpa was stopped outside. No matter what, he was not allowed to enter. The official was going to inspect the hospital for 3 days. Grandpa had no choice. He wanted to go to another city, but they would not care about the orphans here. In the end, he got some black powder and pasted it on the brother's leg. 2 days later, the leg was swollen to the size of his waist. When the official left, it was too late to go to the hospital. After a week, he died. Zhang Xiaobao seemed to be talking about something that had nothing to do with him. He still had a happy expression on his face when he was eating. As he spoke, he picked out some prawn meat and put it on the plate in front of Wang Wan. Wang Wan did not eat it all. She was stunned for a while. She looked at Zhang Xiaobao and said, "So you didn't take revenge? I think you are the most important person in this aspect." "Comrade Wang Wan, you're wrong. Why would I take revenge? If someone made a mistake, there would naturally be the law to solve it. You can't knowingly break the law. That's unacceptable. I'm not a vengeful person. I'm a good person. It's God's doing. That official and the 26 related people were accidentally bitten by a snake. They were bitten by a snake called the taipan snake. Why do you think it is so unbelievable? That snake does not exist in Asia. It lives in desert areas and usually does not take the initiative to attack people. Do you think it is a tourist? Otherwise, it could have been smuggled by someone. It is very possible. Didn't that person know that he only had a few minutes to react after being bitten by this snake? Those people died so miserably. Their blood was coagulated. This is really God's blessing. Good will be rewarded. Evil will be punished. Do more good things. Zhang Xiaobao looked like he was bemoaning the state of the universe and pitying the fate of mankind. He picked up a slightly older cat ear from Wang Wan's soup bowl. The July 12th tragedy. A hospital's director, deputy director, and a high-ranking official were all bitten to death by the taipan snake. Before they died, they knew that the snake was poisonous and called for help. When they died, they had a hopeless look on their faces. No clues could be found. So it was all done by you? Just because a child died in the orphanage. Wang Wan looked at Zhang Xiaobao and felt a little scared. It was not me. You don't have any evidence to prove that their idea was bad, really. Chapter 109. Wang Wan listened to Zhang Xiaobao's nonchalant explanation and didn't know what to say. She still remembered that because this case was too big, it was finally handed over to them. There were 26 people, 26 lives. They didn't even know who killed them when they died. Each and every one of them used their last moments to reveal their possible opponents. As a result, following the clues, they cleaned up quite a number of corrupt officials, but none of them admitted that they were the ones who released the snakes. Zhang Xiaobao, you're really something. Xiaobao, don't always pick up prawns for me. If I want to eat prawns, I can just eat them directly. Why eat the ones in the box? Tell me, how much money did you spend on this? As far as I know, the price of the snake isn't cheap. It had to be transported from so far away, and it wasn't just one. Many died on the way, right? Wang Wan asked Zhang Xiaobao with a smile. Seeing that Zhang Xiaobao still had that blank look in his eyes, she said, Anyway, no one can hold you accountable now that you've admitted it. What are you afraid of? I'm afraid? What am I afraid of? Those people should be afraid. Even God can't stand their way of doing things. I'm guessing that the snake knew about this situation and crawled over by itself. It's not easy to climb over mountains just to bite people. The first step was to investigate and find out where these people often go. For example, that high-ranking official of high-ranking officials often goes to some underground entertainment venue. How much effort do you think the snake had to put in? That guy didn't forget to bring along guards when he was looking for the top courtesan. He had to hide, right? He also had to discuss the time with others of the same kind to take action together. It's not easy. Zhang Xiaobao frowned and pursed his lips. He used words to paint a picture for Wang Wan. Fine, Zhang Xiaobao, you're good. You're so stubborn. It's a pity that we don't have a lie detector. Otherwise, we'll definitely expose your past. Wang Wan didn't care how many things Zhang Xiaobao had done in the past. She just wanted to get the truth from Zhang Xiaobao's mouth. Unfortunately, this bad guy Zhang Xiaobao still wouldn't tell her the truth. His mouth was full of lies. Zhang Xiaobao smiled at Wang Wan and took another bite of the vegetable box. Yes, if you have a lie detector, you should let me use it. I'll let you know what it means to be mentally strong. Let me tell you something. A person killed someone. He was afraid of being caught and sent to the lie detector. So he looked at himself in the mirror and kept saying, I didn't kill anyone. You didn't kill anyone. I didn't kill anyone. Guess what happened in the end? What's wrong? Wang Wan asked. In the end, when all the evidence pointed to him, he saw the corpse and the evidence. He stared blankly at the investigator standing in front of him and said, Who is this dead person? Did I kill him? I didn't kill anyone. Did you make a mistake? In the end, all the data on his body on the lie detector showed that he wasn't lying. In the end, the doctor determined that he was in an unconscious state when he killed the person. Zhang Xiaobao picked up a piece of beef and put it in his mouth. He chewed vigorously as he spoke to Wang Wan. After Wang Wan heard this, She was stunned and didn't know what to say. It was indeed as Zhang Xiaobao said. When a person hypnotized themselves, they wouldn't be able to get any information from their physiological reactions unless they knew their psychological weakness. These people weren't scary. As long as you wanted to find their psychological weakness, you would definitely be able to find it. After all, he used hypnosis. The truly scary ones were people like Zhang Xiaobao. He understood people's psychological activities and physical reactions. He could hypnotize himself at any time and make his body synchronize. Not to mention anything else, when she wanted to rest and enter deep sleep together with him, she had tried it before. The fastest she could do was 3 minutes and 20 seconds, but Zhang Xiaobao, who was lying next to her, only needed 26 seconds to complete it. He was hypnotizing himself. If he could use some tools, hypnotizing others seemed to be the same speed. Thinking of this, Wang Wan felt that since she already knew the truth, she didn't care if he admitted it personally. So she said, "Can you teach me this method of yours? I don't want to fall asleep so quickly." "It can't be taught. When I first learned it, I needed 5 minutes. Later on, I experienced so many things that I didn't care about honor and disgrace anymore. That's why I was able to shorten the time bit by bit. Every time I suffered a loss, every time I failed, and every time I was humiliated, I found that nothing could sway me. This is a kind of self-adjustment psychology. If you suffer a big loss when you're not 20 years old, then you can live to 30 years old. You have 10 years to adjust. If I suffer a loss when I'm 50 years old and can live to 100 years old, then I have 50 years to adjust. Why do you think that you will lose your life tomorrow when you suffer a loss today? At that time, you will find that honor and disgrace aren't so important. Existence is the only thing. Then, go to sleep." As Zhang Xiaobao spoke, he picked up a box with his chopsticks and stared at it. This made Wang Wan also look at it. When Zhang Xiaobao finished speaking, Wang Wan yawned, shook her head, and reached out to pinch Zhang Xiaobao. "Little guy, who do you think you are? You dare to hypnotize me? What are you thinking? Do you think I'm a free spirit? I'll let you scheme against me. I'll let you scheme against me. I'll strangle you to death. I miscalculated. I forgot the most important point of hypnosis. Don't use it on people who have strong beliefs in their hearts." Yes, you are a qualified warrior, Ba Wang Flower. Using this method in front of you is a kind of blasphemy, just like using a lie detector to deal with me. Zhang Xiaobao endured the pain of being pinched and pretended not to care. He directly put a box into his mouth and bit it hard. "Speak. Why are you playing tricks on me?" Wang Wan said angrily. "It's just a practice. If I said that I wanted to take advantage of you, would you believe me?" Zhang Xiaobao replied truthfully. He really did think that way, and he didn't have any malicious intentions. "What are you thinking? Humph, I want to see if you can sleep at night. Be careful, the ground is too hard. You might break it if you fall." Wang Wan put on a straight face, and her hands were still moving in circles. However, Zhang Xiaobao could endure it, and he didn't move like a mountain. "You're scaring me. Separate. I want to separate. At night, I'll ask Pomegranate to tie me to the mat, the kind that is 1 inch thick. I have to bite it continuously." Zhang Xiaobao was really afraid of being tricked. This kind of threat was the most effective. Wang Wan looked at Zhang Xiaobao and suddenly laughed. She pushed the soup in front of him. "Eat your food. Don't think that you're the most powerful person in the world. Some people can't be controlled by you. I'll let you feel frustration and failure again. It's good for your growth. You have to thank me." "Thank you." Zhang Xiaobao put his head into the soup bowl and said in a muffled voice. The night was quiet. When others were sleeping, the officials in the Qin family's village couldn't stand the long night. That night, they found County Magistrate Cheng and asked to leave. After County Magistrate Cheng failed to persuade them several times, he had to follow their request. He led them to hurry on with the journey at night. It was better than when they came because there were torches to light. County Magistrate Cheng still chose the way he came. No matter what, he couldn't let people know that there was another way to get out of here faster. Otherwise, it would be troublesome. These people would hate him to death, even if he explained that he didn't know at that time. A group of people walked in the mountains with torches. At this time, There was no sound of the flute. Only the occasional chirping of some night owls came from the woods, which made people's hair stand on end. Even so, the group didn't stop. They were still moving. These officials were determined to leave this sad place as soon as possible. As for revenge, they also thought about it. However, they saw that there were only a few people in the village. If they were found out, they didn't dare to think about the consequences, especially when they had to avoid County Magistrate Chung. Officials, are you tired? Take a rest, and then we'll continue. County Magistrate Chung felt that these officials were a little different from ordinary people when they were hurrying. Each of them had a fierce expression, which made him a little worried. He was afraid that they would be tired. These officials heard County Magistrate Cheng's words, but none of them said a word. They were all holding their breath and wanted to leave as soon as possible. They were panting heavily, and their eyes were wide open as they hurried on with their journey. After walking for a while, County Magistrate Chung really had no choice but to stop them. These officials could walk forward with a strong momentum, but the two assistant ministers couldn't. The assistant ministers had a good rest these 2 days and didn't suffer so much. My lord, please slow down. The assistant ministers are still behind us. These officials who were walking with a strong momentum had to stop when they heard County Magistrate Cheng's words. They were also afraid that something would happen to the two assistant ministers behind them. If that happened, they wouldn't be able to escape just by suffering a little now. One by one, they stopped and waited for the two assistant ministers behind them accompanied by yamen runners. When they were walking just now, they had forgotten that they were tired. Now that they stopped, they suddenly felt that there was no place that didn't feel uncomfortable. The fatigue that they had been feeling for the past few days finally broke out at this moment. When the night wind blew, people's minds were a little dazed when they were awake. County Magistrate Chung hurriedly asked people to get some dry wood to burn. He brought food and water to everyone and arranged them to the side of the fire so that they wouldn't catch a cold. Otherwise, they might fall sick directly here. In fact, County Magistrate Chung knew that even with this arrangement, many people who could make it to the foot of the mountain would fall sick. At that time, they would have to find a doctor to treat them. At most, they would just catch a cold. These people's bodies were not bad, and they wouldn't die when the time came. Just as County Magistrate Chung had guessed, when they reached the foot of the mountain and saw the carriages that came to welcome them, a few of them fell down immediately. They were carried to the carriages and called for a doctor to treat them. When they returned to the yamen, they would need to rest for some time. You're tuning in to the Romance Rendezvous YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.